Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Final Fantasy XVI. I love this open. I said it a couple of times already, and I'll say it again. This title screen reminds me so much of Armorang in 14. It's unreal. It's actually a very different melody. It's just kind of the style of the music is very, very similar, but in a very good way. And I love that music. Armorang has such a, because it's combining the sort of more old school, especially obviously the older melodies that we're all accustomed to, like the prelude in this particular case. It's combining them with like more modern things with, a chorus or a voice line. I don't know, it's this very calming atmosphere almost that's still very, very intriguing, yet at the same time modern, but also incorporating older elements and musical styles. It's very, very well done. But, before we lose ourselves in musical analysis that I cannot really do because I'm not a musician, hello and welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, day, or evening, wherever you are. Let's jump back into Final Fantasy XVI. Apologies in advance, it's going to be a little bit of a shorter stream because it's going to be insanely hot again today, and it already was yesterday. I did try to go a little bit longer, but at the end it's always, it's very, very, well, tiring sounds a bit much, right? But it kind of is, like, on the mind, right? It's just, when you're boiling from within, it's a little bit difficult to keep the concentration high. And since I'm going to be raiding later on, I really don't want to let my raid members down by potentially, not being as alert and awake as I could be. That being said, it's supposed to get a little bit colder, so hopefully during the next couple of days we'll be able to get nice long sessions in to progress through this game, because I'm very much looking forward to it. Let's actually go into this. Let's load up the game. So we stopped yesterday, yesterday was a bit of a weird stream because I really wanted to make sure to read up on all the lore that is present, but we actually did manage to do a bunch of stuff. We went after Gav, who was on the trail of trying to find out where the hell the possibly Dominant of Fire is going. The hooded figure that we don't yet really know whether or not he's a Dominant himself. He can certainly use a lot of powerful fire magic. Maybe he himself just cannot transform into Ifrit or something. I don't know. But he can imbue others with that power. Either way, it is very, very curious. We did end, however, with Jill over here. I think she's still here, right? Yeah. With her finally waking up, and we're about to go back to Rosaria in the hopes of possibly finding out something, about us, about what happened, right? Maybe some clues as to what we could do. We have seen a smaller cutscene with the hooded figure, indicating that he is apparently with his steward, sister, whatever that is, maiden. He is apparently also journeying back to Rosaria, and it's going to be interesting to see if we meet them. That would be one hell of a coincidence, though, considering that we haven't been there for 13 years. Although I am very interested in seeing what that place now turned out to be. Right? It's Clutch and Melee. Thanks for the follows. So yeah, that's what we're about to do. That being said, I did want to do the side quest first, simply for having that done and out of the way. Also, I was very interested in seeing what the hell might have changed in the other place we went to, which is Orbel Downs, right? That's the, well, it's actually not Lostwing. It's in front of it, right? Was it the Vineyard? Let's actually go back there. The idyllic plains that stretch across the southern reaches of the Holy Empire are sparsely populated, unless one knows where to look. Yeah, let's go back there. Actually, it would probably be a good idea to actually read through what this was. Moving Heaven and Earth. Bohumil, chief botanist at the Hideaway, is missing an assistant and anxious to see her return. Right, that was it. That's what we are about to do, and let's do that first. Technically, I would kind of like to continue with the main story here just because it makes more sense in terms of immersion, but I wanted to start, the stream with a little bit of a slower thing here, and also just see how these side quests really turn out, seeing as the first two really weren't that good. Pretty bad, actually, so yeah. Let's see what this is going to be. Amy's fine, okay. RMC, that's Clive Rossfield, actually. Oh, hey Jill. I hadn't known you would be coming along. Okay, that's weird now. She must be very confused as to why we're going this way now, huh? Yeah, well, it's not really a big deal. I guess I've just been a little bit more... So, see, the thing is, usually this is not a big deal to me at all. Seeing as, for example, Witcher 3 being one of my favorite games, does this too. So what I'm talking about is that the main quest pushes you in a certain direction, right? And it doesn't really make sense that the characters would do anything else other than the main quest, because it's, well... It's not exactly a time constraint or anything, right? We're not pressured to go back to Rosaria right this second. There's nothing there that we need to do right away. Seeing as we haven't been there for 13 years, might as well wait a couple more days. So technically it's not, it's not illogical or anything, but it is a little bit strange in terms of how the characters are always talking about this. And I do wish that they would just incorporate that a little bit more, but that's not a problem exclusive to this game. Obviously, a lot of games are struggling with that. And I'm bringing up Witcher 3 because that was the one main sort of immersion-breaking factor that it had was, oh, hey, we're on our quest to find Ciri, and we have to go through all of these hoops to find her, right? And technically, this is very, very... It's a thing that is going to be very important that needs to be done very quickly, and yet we're off doing... I don't know what, right? Some random side quests. And it's kind of the same thing here. I just wish, that games in general, in these particular cases, would just throw in, just throw in a line, hey, by the way, Clive, if you want to do something else, go ahead. This is not something that needs to be done right this second. As I just said, right? It's been 13 years. We can wait a couple days longer. If there's problems or people are having trouble with stuff,
someone's in trouble.
yeah, I can hear that. It sounded like it was right next to us, though. Oh, hey. Ooh, yeah, I have my new ability. Yeah, that doesn't look OP at all, doesn't it? God, the combat is still so insanely satisfying, I have to say. Sometimes it's a bit... Definitely have to get used to it every single time. Oh, there we go. That ability is kind of... Wow. I mean, considering that it takes a lot of ability points to unlock, I did expect a little bit of a larger thing, but that looked pretty crazy. Wow. Yeah, to be honest, I personally am a very, very big fan of turn-based combat as well, so...
It would have been worse if you hadn't come along. Wait, I've seen you around the Hideaway. You're new, aren't you?
Wait, around the hideaway?
And I'm Martel. But what are you doing here?
Oh yeah, she's from
Looking for you. This is no place for a bearer on her own.
I noticed that. But this soil's not going to collect itself.
Then what if I gathered it for you? You could head back to the hideaway.
Clive, what are you
Just
doing?
exactly what sort of dirt is it that you need?
What I need is soil. But I'd be a fool to refuse your help after what just happened. It's the good stuff you're looking for. Dark, rich, fragrant. You'll know it when you find it.
Dark, rich, and fragrant. Right. Well, you should hurry back. Bohemil seemed worried enough that he might come looking for you himself.
That seems unlikely, but I won't argue with you. Thanks.
Right. Because the quest obviously still needed a fetch quest part.
There's certainly enough of it here.
As if we could actually discern what kind of soil she's looking for. She's an alchemist. We are not. That doesn't make any sense. Also, why the heck are we stealing soil from the wine guy? I don't think he's going to be too happy about that, but sure. Let's do that, yeah. So the side quests are really not that great so far. I'm sorry I have to say that. Especially, well, I think seeing as the main quest, and especially their cutscenes to the main quest, are so good so far, it's really very, very stark contrast. These feel very MMO-like, right? Very reminiscent of sort of the kind of worse quests of 14. That's a bit weird. But yeah, in terms of the combat, I do have to say I like this combat a lot. I think it was a very good choice not to have, or not to be able to control your party. That's a big problem that I had in 15, and in general a thing that I don't like. If you have an action-focused game, please only give me one character, because it never feels good to have sort of AI members with you that never quite know what they're supposed to be doing, right? Party members, that's a thing that you can do in turn-based combat, obviously, seeing as you can choose everyone's actions all the time without any constraints. But yeah, if you're doing real-time combat, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to not have... oh, hey, there's actually people working here. And you didn't hear her screams? Yeah, sure. Yeah, it would be a lot of trouble controlling multiple characters when it's action-focused combat. But, as I said, I like this combat a lot. It's really, really well done, really satisfying to play. Would I wish for more turn-based games? I guess so. Then again, we do have Persona and whatnot, so it's not like turn-based games don't exist at all. And obviously, with the Pixel remasters and whatnot, you can also play the old Final Fantasies again, or play the ones that you haven't played and that is turn-based combat, and that was very fun as well when I went back to Final Fantasy I and played through that. So, I do think it's actually kind of a good thing that we have a bit of a different combat system going on here. It definitely fits sort of the theme of the game more, I would say, in that it's a somewhat faster paced story, I think, right? It is also very character focused. It makes a lot of sense as well with how people turn, the dominants turn into the icons. I think all of that just sort of lends itself to the action-focused approach. That being said, the game does have a couple of more awkward things, or rather, awkward things is sort of not really the right word for it, but it feels in certain areas as if they weren't quite sure what to do with other elements of sort of the Final Fantasy universe. Well, the gear upgrades, for example, don't really make much sense in a game that is not an RPG and has action-focused combat. The crafting and gear system is kind of pointless, right? Stats are kind of pointless. So I do wish, and I said so yesterday actually during the stream, I wish that they would have gone with an approach that meant that instead of changing your stats, it should actually change your action combat. So Certain abilities, for example, could be going out faster or slower, or they could be stronger. They could maybe be combined or comboed in another way, right? Depending on the sort of items or charms you have equipped. So it's a little bit of a weird thing to see this weird cross between action combat that is actually really good and then almost pointless gear upgrades. I don't know.
There you are.
I should continue drinking my coffee
All safe and sound.
before it gets cold.
Well, yes, she's standing right there.
Not the girl. The soil. Did you bring it?
Yes.
Yeah, we stole it from the vineyard. Oh, it actually says vineyard soil sample. I didn't even notice that earlier. Rich, loamy earth gathered from the vineyards of Galton's Bales for use in the Gardener Bohomiel's experiments. Well, okay, maybe they actually have some sort of contract or... Yeah, this is a weird quest. Because if they had that, they could just... Wouldn't they have a kind of a trade route thing already going on? Doesn't really make much sense at all, but alright.
Glorious! When Martel came home empty-handed, I almost had a fit. But with this, my research can continue. First and foremost come the measurements. I must know how much ether each sample contains. From there...
Wait, so you were never...
Worried about me? Sorry to disappoint you, but the only thing he worries about is his research.
But that's...
That's all right. It's just how he is. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be growing anything in these ruins. It's a small price to pay. Although, you shouldn't have to pay it too. Did he even offer you anything for helping? Ugh. Here. I know it's not much, but it's something, at least. I wish I could offer you some fruit too, but you're not likely to thank me if I do. Still, we'll grow something worth eating one of these days, and when we do, you'll have first pick.
Wait, I thought you already did. Aren't they somewhat self-sufficient already? Didn't we hear from the cook that they already sometimes cook things that they grew here? Maybe it was just in reference to this one tree. I don't know. Yeah, I wish the side quests... I don't know, isn't this a prime opportunity to explain to us why the hell they're even able to grow stuff here, where even though they're in the Deadlands?
Bohemil will not bow to the plight.
I mean, see, the thing is, this quest is actually pretty cool in that you realize, oh, hey, wait a second, they bring in soil from the outside, and that soil seems to contain ether, so it makes sense that you can grow something in an environment that is otherwise just dead. That's very interesting. I just wish that it would actually come up in conversation. Yeah. The side quests are definitely weird in that regard. First off, they're not really that great in terms of gameplay because they're just very MMO fetch questy-like for whatever reason. And then they do seem to revolve around potentially interesting subjects, but the stuff that actually comes up during conversation is never the interesting things. I also just simply wish that in terms of the side quests, they could have definitely made them a little bit more interactive, right? With Clive actually being able to ask questions or, well, us being able to be inquisitive about the things that are going on and what we could potentially find out. Well, remains to be seen if they ever improve. So far, I unfortunately have to say that the side quests are content that didn't really need to be here for unfortunate reasons, but oh well. Anyways, before I continue with the main story though, I do think it would be cool to play through one of these levels again. Let's turn the cutscenes off and try the Caer Noran fight against Benedicta again. Do I have... Wait, before I do that though, let me just double check my abilities. Let's see, so... Gaunt Flames of Rebirth, that's pretty good, especially to heal as well. That's the... I guess... In this particular case, Gouge would be better instead of Wicked Wheel. Let's try that. I just need to remember that this is now on Triangle. Yeah. But let's try it this way. Cutscenes are off. Yeah, that's fine. Yes. Wait, didn't I... What?
All clear.
Oh my god, I think I've... Did it again. That UI element is very, very confusing for whatever reason. Yeah, I know. How did this work? There we go. Yeah, I wish there would be a check mark there or something, because now it says cutscenes on, right? But that means that you're supposed... I guess... Okay, yeah, the symbol next to it. That's a weird thing. I wish it would just have them off in general. Isn't the other mode there to technically go back through and you know, re-experience the level?
That's a nice trick. You'll have to teach me sometime.
Alright, let's see. I don't know how many legs this has.
We should start with the dungeons. They may be holding the bearers there.
Sound plan. As long as we keep ourselves on this side of the bars.
In here. They're all empty.
And you're gonna give up?
It is a bit weird, though, that in this mode they also require you to walk slowly. But, meh, well...
Need some help?
It might break something if you don't, right? Considering that the dialogue and everything is still built for that, more or less.
I'm doing most of the lifting.
I still wish this would be one R2 that very slowly filled instead of 3. Somehow 3 times just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense considering the action they're doing, but alright. Let's go, guys. Takes a little bit of time to get to the first combat.
Did you hear that?
Unfortunately, yes.
Your search is over.
This looks so insane.
Garuda, lend me your strength!
So,
Is that an S? Yes,
where's
nice.
next?
I do think that S is a little bit too easy to achieve. I don't know. At the end of the day, it's about your score, right? So it doesn't really matter what kind of letter it says. It, you know,
You pick.
you ultimately just want to improve your score more. Oh yeah, it's the weird window that is conveniently bigger than all the other ones.
Bloody show off.
Yeah.
Well, we found the Imperial garrison.
I feel like the first time I did this, it definitely seemed as if there were multiple pathways that you could take here. So it's sort of an interesting thing that... Wait, oh, that's still on cooldown? Really? It's just kind of an interesting thing that we would be...
This time.
There we go. Ah! Thought I would be able to still evade him. There we go. Oh, you're still alive. Okay. Ah, that wasn't as great. Definitely missed some precision counters there. That being said, I didn't know the one guy that attacked me. I don't know if that was actually, if I could have avoided that. Yeah, this is very interesting though in that I don't know if you can technically skip enemies in this, seeing as these are fairly open environments, right? Why is that so OP? Like, really? Holy shit. Did it already come through yet? Guess not. Give me my body. There we go. It is also very, very interesting that in these particular cases it always counts, you know, every encounter sort of as a different one. There we go. Oh, wait, what? That was strange. Didn't even really realize they were doing constant attacks. Did I reduce my cooldown somewhat? Not reduce. I feel like they're longer than yesterday, but... Let's heal for a bit. I need to remember to also sometimes press Torgold stuff. I still don't really understand when you're supposed to press it, actually. This is where we started, right? Wait, is it? I do remember that this was sort of a circle to a certain degree. But yeah, you can actually get bonus points if you sick Torgal at the right moment, which is a bit weird, right? I don't know if that's a good idea that they made Torgal controllable in this fashion, because it doesn't really feel like it's making too much of a difference, right? I also wish that the gates that you already went through would actually stay open. Okay, we were already down here. So what happens if you just skip some enemies? Does it just reduce your high score that you can potentially achieve? Isn't that a bit weird? Oh, hey buddy. There you are. God damn it! Nice. Also, it is definitely still a little bit of a strange thing to not have your cooldowns in a place that is more easily accessible. Ah, damn it! If you mess up one of those, it's always messing up. That is so weird. Oh, that was a parry, right? Yeah, see, these... I keep trying to push R1, but if you miss one of them, it's always missed, which is weird. There we go. I have to say, this enemy is definitely the most fun that I've fought so far, but it's also the one that I feel like is still the most difficult as well. Like, there's something to them, I don't know what it is exactly, that just makes it difficult to fight them. And it feels like if you're messing up one thing or one timing in a particular place, they can just sort of chain stun you and you're unable to do an R1 dodge again or a recovery. I don't know. But that's definitely also on me not really having learned yet how to properly counter them. It feels like they have a specific... they have a delay on a lot of their attacks, and then they go in for like 2 or 3 quick strikes, and that's what makes it difficult, right? Also just in general makes it difficult to see what they're about to be doing. Oh, it was only an A in this particular case.
You don't say. Flames to me. Garuda, lend me your strength.
Oh, damn it. Wrong icon. I switched over even though I still had this. Come here, come here. Yeah, maybe I do need the taunt, actually. Feels like the taunt is a thing that would be very, very cool to have.
Garuda, lend me your strength. It's over.
There we go. Nice. Go. That was weird. What?
That's enough.
There we go. I was trying to go for that the entire time.
It's over.
Okay. Yeah, there were a couple of mortal blows that I missed, and I don't really know why. Entire time it felt to me as if I was, you know, not really able to punish them, even though technically they were already down quite a bit.
The only way is through the chapel.
I tried to use my abilities that way.
Must have plans for us.
Okay, now comes the fun bit. Let's see. Funnily enough, we're now fighting these guys with, you know, Garuda's powers. Actually, don't know or don't remember which one of these was the ranged one. didn't remember them immediately going into this. Double takedown! Nice. There we go. Ah, damn it. Why? It felt like I was already locked into my attack and I couldn't dodge because of that. That was a bit strange, definitely. There we go. That wasn't a precision dodge, okay. Huh? There we go.
She doesn't look happy, Tola. Come on.
Oh god. That's not what I wanted. Yeah, sometimes the game takes quite a long time for you to recover, and I don't really know how exactly that works. There we go. Perfect.
Flames to me.
Yeah, these are sometimes very, very hard to read in terms of the specific, you know... There we go. Specific timing you get. And then I also wish that... I don't know, sometimes it's very strange in terms of... See, I'm pretty sure I pressed R1 in the correct spot there. And that also should have been a precision dodge, I feel like.
Get him.
Shouldn't that also be a parry if you press the... Oh, staggered again. Yeah, I didn't play that very well at all. Definitely need to learn properly how that works. The problem is, you always just want to attack, right? You want to be in that flow, but sometimes the enemies just take quite a bit of time to attack again. And so you never... You know, I'm looking for that beautiful flow that, for example, Sekiro lets you get into. And I think that's probably going to come later on if we do get more abilities. But for now, there is quite a bit of downtime sometimes, or it's difficult to get back to your opponent, especially since, for example, the Garuda ability doesn't let you draw in bosses. Obviously, you can use the Phoenix Shift to get to them, but it's still a little bit of a weird thing. And then I do sometimes wish that the game would allow you to like cancel out of abilities with R1. I think sometimes you can, but I'm still not quite sure when and where and how exactly that works. Because sometimes it just feels as if... Oh, still an S though. Interesting. Sometimes it just feels as if... I don't know. As if you're kind of locked in, right? And then it also... Sometimes you get these moments where you don't dodge the first attack and then you're kind of struck for a second and you're not allowed to dodge the second one either. Pretty sure you can somehow, but it's definitely not that easy to pull off. It's very interesting. There are definitely still some intricacies to the combat that... Well, the problem is also I feel like I'm looking too much at the UI in certain areas, especially at the cooldowns. And I just need to, I don't know, find a better flow for that, or find a better way to, I don't know, attack and whatnot without constantly looking at the UI. Oh, this was just a side area, right? Funnily enough, that is something that I still catch myself doing way too often in 14 as well. Performance penalties. Why is this popping up now? During arcade mode, when an enemy casts Cure on itself or one of its allies, you will incur an enemy recovery penalty and points will be deducted from your overall score. Defeat these spellcasters as quickly as possible to ensure that doesn't happen. Oh, very interesting. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, because otherwise you could actually cheat by having them constantly heal and then attack again, and that would improve your score. That makes sense. Okay, yeah.
Not this time.
Yeah, you're not the guy I wanted to attack, actually. Wait. Is there a Cure guy still here? I thought he was the only one. Yeah, he was the only one. Alright. He did get a Cure off, I think. Like, pretty much shortly before I killed him. Okay. Oh yeah, that was actually the only encounter here. Okay. I think now it's only the boss fight. Is every level... Does every level actually have 6... No, wait. The previous one had 7, right? Because that would actually be very strange if they had specifically built these levels to fit into arcade mode. What? Oh, wrong.
Stay down.
There you go.
Wake wind. You know what to do, boy. It's over.
Nice.
Get him.
Oh. Huh? Okay. Yeah, oh, that was a C? What the hell? Okay. I'm just not a fan of all of the UI elements being somewhere in the corner of the screen. That is so weird. Then again, I also don't really know how else to do that. Maybe it would be cool if your HP bar or something would change color depending on the icon that you have equipped, right? Because then it would be easy to see at a glance what icon you're in. This way you kind of have to keep in mind what abilities you use. That gets definitely... it's kind of interesting in that you have to use your brain more in a way if you really want to be good, because you're more or less required to keep a lot of stuff that technically is shown on the UI in mind, because otherwise it's going to be very, very difficult to see where things are, right? I do also have to say though, it might be a good idea to have at least one AoE ability still, even though obviously you're going to be fighting bosses from time to time. Did I maybe... No, I didn't. I was gonna say, did I maybe skip an encounter? Because I didn't feel like I played that badly in that particular case. Especially since I got a lot of mortal blows, actually. Is there anything back here? No. Hi guys. What?
It's over.
There we go.
Stay down.
That was good. That was good and fun. Now that makes me wonder though why they have a couple of these be individual legs, right? I mean, that was two very, very small encounters back to back, and instead of counting them as one? Oh, that's where we came from. Man, why do the doors not stay open? That is so weird. Sometimes it's just... That is one thing in terms of the level design that I definitely have to criticize about this game, unfortunately, is they look very, very samey. They need more individual, or not individual, they need more unique assets to really make them distinct in terms of where exactly you are during any point of the level. Sometimes it is not exactly confusing, but just, you know, simply not as great as it could be. See, those two hits, I feel like I should have been able to dodge the second one. Also, I don't know why he suddenly did the... Okay.
Sorry.
Oh god. So now I would have to retry from the start, right? Okay. Yeah, let's not do that. I want to continue with the story, actually. Okay, so you cannot die. That is very interesting. Makes sense, but yeah. I don't know why that assassin guy started with the fire stuff immediately, because typically they don't really do that. Also, one thing that I don't really get is technically shouldn't the Phoenix thing have a heal to it as well? I never quite saw myself actually healing. Okay, first of all, let's equip Wicked Wheel again. Flames of Rebirth. Summon a massive pillar of fire that burns all enemies caught within the flames while also partially restoring Clive's HP. Well, I know from the ability description that it had something weird to do with some sort of heal... let me actually reread that. Yeah, heal amount is determined by current HP regain, indicated on the life bar in faint green. Yeah, there's like a... I don't know what that's dependent on, though, which makes it strange. There's like an additional gauge there that indicates whether or not... Funnily enough, actually, that was the first time that I died in the entirety of the playthrough so far. Yeah, I do have to say I didn't really play that all that well, I think. I don't know, maybe I should wait a little bit before trying the arcade mode again in terms of the abilities that I currently have. I don't know. I definitely have to... I just simply did not play that very well. I got hit way too many times.
Come on,
well,
Clive.
whatever.
Let's go to Phoenix Gate. I need to know what really happened that night.
Let's do that. I want to continue with the main story. Also, it seems like we're not actually getting more side quests. I thought, you know, when the side quests actually led me over to that vineyard, that we would get more side quests there, but apparently that's not a thing? I don't know. Let me very quickly double check something here, though. Yeah, let me... The hell is this? Okay, yeah, never mind. All right. That's it. Let's continue with this. I'm really, really interested to see where the story goes now. Because we, I don't know. Are we gonna meet our mysterious robed Joshua friend? 3 reads. Rising waters transformed the once fertile farmland into noisome morass, rendering it nigh uninhabitable to all but leeches and lizards. Then again, considering that the roped figure has almost sought us out to a certain degree, maybe he kind of suspects that we will be going back anyways, and that's why he's returning as well.
Rosaria. It's been 13 years.
But this breeze, the smell of the grass, it's just as I remember it.
You haven't been back either.
I couldn't. Bran did keep a close watch on each other in the Imperial Army. You'd get beheaded just for knowing a deserter. The only way out was on a mission.
And you never came through here on a mission either? Seems unlikely, honestly.
But mostly I was afraid. Afraid to go back.
I know.
But I'm here now. Thanks to you.
It does look very beautiful, doesn't it? Especially the Imperial Province of Rosaria. I was gonna say, so it is considered an Imperial Province right now. Yeah, considering that he was technically part of the Imperial Army.
Must be Martha's Rest. Gav said the landlady's a friend.
But can we say the same for her patrons?
Imperials don't tend to take well to those with my mark. If anyone asks, I'm a branded soldier, sworn to protect my noble mistress.
This environment looks really, really beautiful. It seems way more extensive than the other ones, but maybe that's just, you know, not specifically the size, but rather the fact that we can sort of watch over the entire thing from here. That looks really interesting. It almost looks like a rocket or something that is about to start, right? There seem to be a bunch more of those in the background too. Really makes you wonder why the Fallen Ruins haven't played more of a role so far. Hey, there's actual people. What are you guys up to?
Look at the fuse on this one. Explains why there's a premium on Imperials. Maybe I should up your rations, build you up a bit. Bet you'd love another bowl of Martha's Best, wouldn't you?
Okay. Guess they're not very fond of Imperials here. But I got that right. This has been pretty much Imperial territory for the last 13 years, right? I wonder what the Imperials did. Like, I don't know. Most of what I've heard so far or read so far seems to suggest that the Imperials didn't really do all that much here. Technically, it does belong to them now, but because otherwise, seeing as they're very, very keen on religion. Just makes me wonder if they would have tried to impose that religion on Rosaria as well. I can definitely see that this place here simply isn't... Hey, Torgal. Oh, who's a good doggy? I can see them not being that fond of the Imperials. But yeah, still, is it because Clive hails from here that they never let him back here? Because otherwise, I do find it quite strange that he would have never at least come through here on a mission. Especially considering that the Iron Men... Oh, well, then again, maybe the Iron Men weren't too interested in this entire place anymore after a certain point. I don't know. Man, I really wish the sprint would be toggleable. Oh, hey. It is very strange to me that the sprint is a thing that just happens all of a sudden after a while. That is such a weird thing to do. Okay, I need to switch my brain to normal gameplay mode. Oh well, then again, it might be good to train a little bit for arcade mode as well, right? There we go. Okay, that didn't hit me, but it also didn't really properly count as a counter.
Get him.
Ah, damn it. I should have just done that right away instead of dodging normally.
Get him, boy.
What the hell is that? Oh. Okay. Nice. I don't know. There are a bunch of like smaller things with the combat that I still struggle to really wrap my head around. You know, bigger enemies obviously you cannot draw to you. So that's a thing that you just need to get accustomed to, more or less. But then also, for example, with the bull, you know, when I was in the air, I actually wasn't properly hitting it, I think. But sometimes your attacks do connect, and sometimes they kind of don't.
Excellent.
Oh, wait. I'm on the wrong.
That's enough.
And then sometimes the distance of your shift is also something you really, really need to learn. I don't know, I feel like oftentimes the shift is a bit longer. It's like it gets slightly extended sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. Then again, I should probably also double check my ability. I don't really have that many points. Let's see. Where's the Phoenix shift? Wouldn't that be here? Ooh, yeah, there we go. It might be worth it to master this. Increases shift distance, yeah. I should probably look out for that. Because I feel like... I think it's because I mastered this, right? The jump to enemy and strike them. I mastered that, and the distance is obviously way greater than the shift distance, and I keep confusing the two, I think. Briar clamshells.
Stay down. You know what to do, boy.
Nice. I also have to say, considering that this is more of an open field area, with monsters that you can seemingly just kind of grind and farm and whatnot, makes me wish that the other areas would be somewhat similar to this one. I don't know. You guys are friendly, huh? Yeah. I feel like this is way more in line with what the game maybe should be for the most part. I don't know. This looks suspiciously like a boss arena. Is there a side boss here or something? Oh, maybe it's just these guys. Yeah, see, that's... Sometimes you're so close to hitting, but you still don't hit. How was that a parry? They all died. God, I hate the sprint. I hate it. I hate it so much. Why? Why did they do that? Why is that not a thing that you can just press on your own? Actually, you know what? Let me just... Although I think I already checked that. Let's see. Yeah, because this doesn't have sprint anywhere on it, right? Animal instinct, reset camera, cycle shortcuts and pet commands, use shortcuts, lock on, cycle icons. What exactly changes with these, actually? Oh, that's weird. Wait, what? So square is ready iconic ability, and then what do you have to press in order to actually do it? Oh, because you... right. So you would press square and then R1 or R2. Okay, that makes more sense. I thought you had to do something weird with pressing square and then triangle and whatnot. Yeah, why does this game not have a completely customizable layout? Like, this is something games did 10 years ago. How are we still not past that? Oh boy. Right, so... What exactly does this change? Oh, so lock-on is now L2, magic is L1. And what's the... Wait, magic lock-on. Ready? Evade? Oh, okay. So you cycle icons with triangle and magic turns into L1 and the lock-on in L2. Okay, interesting. Well, I'm used to this now, so let's stay on that for a bit. This is a weirdly open area, right? Considering that there's only that one encounter over here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind that sprint exists. I think it is pretty cool to be able to, you know, get to where you're trying to go more quickly. If you so choose. The fact that you cannot really choose is
After what happened
not great.
at Phoenix Gate, it didn't seem the highest priority.
Oh, that one. I was going to say we were standing on a bridge. Okay. Where the hell was that supposed to lead anyways? That's a very strange bridge, don't get me wrong, but what? Well, let's talk to the guy. Seems like we get a side quest on our hands.
Oi,
Stop and give me an hand.
What's going on?
You couldn't give me an hand, could you? Typical. A bloody bearer. Just when I thought my luck had changed.
Oi, I thought you wanted a hand, huh?
Still, better a crumb of crystal than an empty hand, I suppose. Though it pains me to use another man's branded. Here, you understand me, don't you? I need your help.
Something I'm not really inclined to help you.
My cargo, and now they've got me surrounded. And it was really late as it was. I've got something special needs delivering before the rest, but I dare not leave my cart untended. You couldn't run it up to Martha's Rest for me, could you? Needs to get there quick, mind.
Agreed to carry the package to Martha's Rest. Okay, so... I mean, once again, I know this is supposed to symbolize how branded are treated. And it is somewhat effective in that, well, I'm quite annoyed at him. The fact that you cannot talk to him at all, that you cannot, mention that he is not treating us very well, or that we're not exactly inclined to help him if he asks this way, and he could be nicer about it. Yeah.
Fine.
It just...
That's the spirit. All right. Here. You hand that to the stable master and no one else. I'm owed a little something for it. If he gives it to you, pass it along to your master by way of thanks. Be off with you then, and don't go taking any detours on the way.
All right, I'm gonna go get a detour right away. Go on a detour. What did I say? Get a detour?
You hand that package I gave you to the stable master at Martha's Rest, and be sure to thank your owner for me.
Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty cool. Again, it's really awesome seeing those additional interactions, right? Being able to see how Clive would be treated, or is kind of treated, because people think that he's a bearer. Because he kind of was. But I don't know. The fact... I mean, okay. You can certainly argue that it would be weird for him to talk back, right? That's not exactly what I'm talking about. But the fact that you cannot choose, or that, like... I know this isn't supposed to be an RPG. But at the end of the day, I mean, yes, I could have declined his offer. I don't know. This just feels very, very backwards. It feels like it's... this feels like quests were designed... I don't know, 15 years ago, right?
So it was my first mission today.
Really? That was not timed correctly? I guess that wasn't either.
You know what to do, boy.
Maybe I should really go for the taunt, honestly. Ooh, that was a lot of damage, though. Okay, that is a very strange timing. Because I precision dodged, right? And it felt like by doing one precision dodge, I kind of, wasn't really able to precision dodge the other ones. Hey, a level up. Haven't gotten those in a while. Nice. 20. Ooh, actually, do we have enough? Oh, we do. Nice. Okay, let's master the shift. Perfect. Oh, wait. Doesn't really feel like that much longer, does it? Maybe it needs an enemy there? That would be strange. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like it's much longer in terms of distance. Oh, God. Can't actually go that way. Huh. Oh, hey. I have to say, in this particular case, the environment does look very beautiful, yet at the same time, I don't know what it is exactly about how they built this world, but in a lot of ways, a lot of these areas look very samey. And I don't really mean that in the sense that they're all actually looking the same, but it's just something about the graphical style that isn't even, like, I'm not saying that it's bad or anything, it's just a bit unusual when it comes to level design. It's not something that you see this way quite as often. Damn it! Why? Dude, again, it's like, it happens so often that your abilities just miss because he decides to, for whatever reason, like, hit just barely beside the enemy instead of actually hitting the enemy. I know that it's also partially, well, it is kind of my fault for, I think, using abilities at the wrong moment. Right? So, for example, when I know that a smaller enemy like the Hornet is being knocked forward a little bit, I shouldn't use my iconic ability right away because then it won't hit. But it feels like the combat would flow better if he would automatically shift forward a little bit. But then again, it's definitely one of those intricacies of the combat that you need to really wrap your head around, I think. I have to say, aside from that weird issue of everything kind of looking the same, this area still is, like, I would say my favorite so far. Yeah, see, it took so long to shift over to the other icon because I was still kind of stuck in my other ability. Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely me also wanting to constantly combo abilities, but doing so exclusively with the iconic abilities, and I'm kind of, I think, missing that you can also combo the rest. That was dodged too early. There we go. Nice. Ah, damn it. Tried to still get the Phoenix ability in there. That wasn't a precision dot? Okay. Also, it definitely sometimes just looks as if enemies would do their stuff way earlier than what they're doing. Oh. Did not realize he would do that. See, again, it just didn't do my ability. I don't know why. Oh, okay, I get it. I think I accidentally pressed R2 as well. I'm somewhat annoyed at myself, honestly, sometimes for seemingly also pressing wrong buttons, at least to a certain degree. I don't know. I definitely feel like I'm still not entirely used to be playing an action game like this that, you know, requires these different combinations to go on all the time. It is very... I'm trying to find words to describe what the hell is wrong with the level design. And when I say wrong, I don't mean that in the sense that the level design is particularly bad or anything. It's just more unusual. See, for example, in this particular case, you're looking at this, right? And the bridge almost blends into the background, right? The unfinished bridge. And I want to say that it's very, very unusual. And typically, because typically games, and all pieces of media for that matter, right? I guess... So I'm not an artist, but still, when you see like concept drawings and whatnot, what you want to do is you kind of want to differentiate the foreground from the background, and you want to make sure that all of the different elements of your scene are actually able to be seen, right? So what you typically see, or what people try to go for when you're designing a level like this, is that you're putting in different colors or a bit of contrast, something that differentiates these different elements from one another. And I feel like also with the trees in the background, for example, they almost look exactly the same as the ones in the foreground, right? So I don't know if we're missing some atmospheric fog, or I don't know what exactly is going on here, but I feel like it's very unusual in terms of designing a scene. And I can't really make up my mind whether or not that's good or bad, because I feel like it's almost a more realistic style, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about this in terms of being a realistic scene, maybe it would look a little bit more like this, but we're so used to seeing these scenes a bit more stylized, I guess, right? Making sure that you can really pick out what is what. And arguably, when it comes to games, you want to make sure that the player is actually capable of discerning where they are at any given moment, and also pick out certain details on the horizon to orient yourself on. I'm not saying that it's particularly bad or anything, or that you're not able to do so. I mean, there's a bunch of ruins and whatnot in the distance that you can definitely use to orient yourself. But again, it's somewhat hard to put into words, but I would definitely say that there is something unusual going on here that most other games typically don't do, which is interesting. And yeah, it's somewhat hard to put into words, but there is definitely something about the scenes that, at least for me, is kind of missing in terms of being able to really discern different elements from one another. I don't know. Maybe it's also simply the use of colors, that these scenes primarily use like 2 or 3 colors. But then again, when you think about other games, that's also kind of the case in those, right? That might actually be a very interesting thing to try to compare to Tears of the Kingdom, for example, when I go back to that, which I think I kind of want to do for at least one stream this week. So as not to really to be totally lost whenever I return to it. But yeah, it's interesting. Also, I just wanted to mention, there in the background on the horizon, we can actually see the castle, right? Rosalith Castle, or I don't know if it has another specific name, which again is very interesting to me. I don't know if the world map, like, I'm still trying to figure out the scale of this world, right? When we look at the world map here, supposedly we're just barely away from our hideaway, but yet we can already see the castle. I don't know. It feels like we're currently more here than over here. And again, that is definitely unusual in terms of world scaling, right? I mean, so when it comes to open worlds, like, let's take Skyrim, for example, right? It's sort of accepted that the world isn't true to scale, right? Because it couldn't be. Obviously, everything needs to be packed a little bit closer together to, facilitate it actually being an open world, because otherwise, again, it comes back to that issue of you don't want to just insert a bunch of empty space in between cities and whatnot, because that wouldn't really be that fun to go through, right? You want the player to have fun, to be able to see a lot of different elements when they're walking through your game world all the time, and not be bored. So you kind of need to find a scale where it still feels like a fairly big world, and there is a bunch of techniques to achieve that, right? Skyrim, for example, uses verticality to a certain extent, but also other things to kind of have winding roads, right, to make you walk around certain elements of your world and not just beeline it to your destination all the time, right? I would say that Tears of the Kingdom, for example, also uses a bunch of verticality to achieve that, although that world is quite unusual in terms of open worlds, I guess, especially when you compare it to something like Skyrim or Oblivion. But again, those open worlds, you sort of inherently accept that they're not actually true to scale, right? Because they cannot be. With games like this, however, where you're just visiting certain places, yes, there is definitely a certain amount of scaling still going on, because games, for the most part, can't really display true population sizes, for example, right? Even in a medieval setting, I think smaller villages would still have, potentially hundreds of people living in them. That would still be considered somewhat of a smaller village, but obviously that can't always be simulated, so you go with a little bit of a smaller scale, and that is perfectly fine. What I find very unusual about this world design, though, is that you have this world map that seems like it's a fairly extensive world, right? Certainly not the biggest one you've ever seen, and it doesn't need to be big. I actually mentioned multiple times that I thought it was a cool idea to have maybe a bit of a smaller world, right? Because if people know each other quite well, or if they're fighting over not that much territory, there's actually a bunch of very interesting stories that can come out of that. But this is very strange, right? Maybe the positions of these obelisks aren't really realistic, but from what we've seen, right, from here, so from this vineyard, you can pretty much walk to Lostwing. Like, that's maybe a kilometer tops, right? That is very, very close. And then from here, you can pretty much walk to here. And from here, you can walk to here. This is actually just the other side of the building, more or less, or of the castle. So it feels like the castle is sort of in this area, right? And we have both sides of it being here. And then from here, you're pretty much in very, very quick walking distance of the city. So I don't know. I mean, when you look at these cities also, right? So for example, this one, you consider the size of these buildings. This is actually scaled correctly, almost. This map is, I mean, which is weird. Because that seems to suggest that, between here and here, so between the two different coasts, it really is only a couple of kilometers, almost as if this is just, an island. instead of a continent. And the thing that I'm struggling with currently is determining whether or not this is supposed to be like that, right? Do they want me to think that it's an island-sized world? Or did they just scale it weirdly and it is supposed to be a continent, but for some reason you're able to see like places from one another? Because that seems like an exceptionally odd decision to make, right? I can understand the appeal, right, of having very cool and interesting elements in the backgrounds of your levels, right? So having Rosalith Castle actually be in the background, obviously that looks cool. But why not put this over here then, right? And make it seem as if we traveled quite a distance and are now already fairly close to the castle. Instead, they chose to put it here, suggesting that there's only 3-4 kilometers between, you know, our hideaway and Rosalith Castle. I don't know. Isn't that strange? The scaling of this world is really off for some reason. Like it seems even way smaller than something like Skyrim, for example. And again, I don't even really mind if that would be the case. I just feel like the game wants you to think that the world is much larger than it appears. And that's what's weird to me. That mismatch of information that you're getting here is really quite unusual. I don't know. It remains to be seen. Maybe at some point throughout the story we'll actually be able to get additional information on this, right? Maybe somebody actually says, oh, hey, by the way, it's, you know, I mean, so far, for example,
Martha's Rest.
We've never actually had anybody mention how long it took them to travel anywhere, right? Because with the scale of the world that is suggested to us, it seems as if it would take you maybe half a day's travel at most to get from the east to the west coast, right? So maybe that is actually the case, which would be fine again, right? I don't mind that being the case. It's just, it hasn't really been mentioned at any point so far, so it's really strange. I do have to say though, if somebody would suddenly come up and say, oh hey, you know, it's like 10 days travel between those two places, then I would say that the world scaling, or at least the world map, is really weirdly off. Not even in terms of because obviously it's supposed to be a stylized map, but in terms of the placement of where, you know, the different places seem to be located on the map, that would be off then. Do we want to turn in the side quest first? Might be a good idea.
That's one of our branded. Do we take him in?
He's not one of ours. Look, it's with his master.
Okay, odd sound design. It sounded as if they're talking in a room. And I guess, honestly, the thing that we got from, what's his name? The dude at the vineyard, right? Shouldn't we like wear his symbol somewhere so that people could actually see that? Oh no, never mind. No, that was me being dumb. I think they immediately thought of her as being our master. Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, why was she never branded? I guess because the Iron Man just took her in and then immediately, like, she became a dominant, and that's why she was never branded? Hey, buddy. Also, again, in terms of scaling, where's the bridge? This is like maybe 300, 400 meters? So you're telling me the guy over there couldn't like walk this distance and say, hey, you know, right down there where you can still see stuff, that's where my cart is. Could you come help me? Or collect those chocobos, or I don't know.
Are you the stable master? I was asked to deliver this to you.
I hate going on about this, but this sort of quest design honestly feels like, 1998 Pokemon level. Where you have to take Professor Oak's package to the next village, right? And it's sort of suggested that, obviously the world is much bigger than what it seems. But now we have these full-scale 3D worlds that are being created, but the quests don't match up with that at all. And it's especially weird since games like The Witcher 3 have already had a much better scaled world that actually seems realistic in terms of, Novigrad, for example, is by far, like light years ahead, still the best scaled city I've ever seen in any game, period, right? And this seems very backwards in terms of its design, which wouldn't actually be bad if they sort of played it up like that, right? So if they stylized their world somewhat and, I don't know, maybe included certain elements that made it seem more like it was scaled to a certain degree. I don't know how exactly you could achieve that. Ah, well.
This is for me, right enough. Not sure what some bearer's doing bringing it to me, though. Where's that fool of a peddler got to?
Yeah, he's down there.
Come himself. His cart's surrounded by wild chocobos.
And he couldn't walk 200 meters to get to you.
Sounds about right. He'll have it full of Gizal greens, no doubt. Crammed with him, if I know him.
Gizal greens.
Chocobos go mad for them, don't they? And if you forget to seal the cart up tight, the smell gets out, and birds come running from miles around. Don't get me wrong. They're a fine investment for a savvy merchant, especially around these parts. But you can't get greedy, as our mutual friend is learning the hard way. Still, I got my wares, and that's all that matters. Be sure to pass your master my regards.
Boom! Quest complete, as if we've done some really, really exceptional thing here.
We get travelers and merchants aplenty through here. Enough to keep me busy, that's for certain.
Like, the weirdest part about this to me is that this all seems so unnecessary, right? I think, or I get the feeling that a couple of the design decisions that were made with this game try to be more old school, quote unquote, on purpose, right? I know the word old school doesn't really fully sort of engulf what I'm trying to say here, but I think that's perfectly fine, right? I think it's kind of cool that they maybe try to go with a more familiar Final Fantasy style, and considering that most Final Fantasies at this point are older games, they sort of wanted to keep certain, I guess we could call them traditions or staples of the series alive still, and that's perfectly fine. The one thing that I just find exceptionally weird about this is that they didn't really fully commit to it, right? So it's as if they wanted to have these more old school quest designs and world elements, and specifically chose not to make an open world so that they could have these different sections and whatnot of the map. Yet at the same point, they also designed it weirdly, right? As if they wanted to have the modern idea of, oh, hey, this looks really cool. It's like those elements are clashing instead of, building up each other, right? We have this clash of something that wants to be realistic and immersive and modern, against the somewhat old school quest design and menu design, ability design, and whatnot. And both parts aren't bad on their own, But when they come together, they create this weird dichotomy that, at least for me, doesn't really match up. Right? It feels like the game is trying to be both things at once, yet through that is neither. And neither side really, you know, convinces me that this world is, you know, cool. Okay, that's a weird way of putting it. Neither side really immerses me. That's sort of, I guess, what I'm trying to say, right? Is that we get this weird clash of elements that doesn't really match up. Pretty much. Which isn't even, you know, I know I've talked about this a bunch now, and that's actually not even, you know, I don't mind it as much. I know that I keep talking about it a lot. But that's not actually because I, like, it's not that I, you know, think that it's particularly bad or anything, or that we, that it should be totally different as to what it is, right? It's just confusing, that is all. I don't really mind it. I think, you know, if the game sort of has a very, very cool and interesting story to follow, then I can look over the weaker elements, certainly. And so far, especially, for example, the combat is super, super interesting and fun. Right? So it's not a big deal that those elements don't match up. It's just really confusing to me why they don't, right? Because it feels like something that it's not something that I look at and say, oh yeah, they didn't have the budget to realize, you know, a bigger world, or you know, it doesn't feel like, oh, you know, they didn't have a good idea as to how to do this, or anything like that, right? I'm struggling to find a reason for why they did it this way. And that's why I keep going on about it, because it's one of those things where I just don't understand why it was done this way, right? I don't even really mind it all that much, although I do wish it would be a bit different. But overall, right, when it comes to how much that is technically sort of influencing my enjoyment of the game, I would say it's like, you know, very, very little in terms of sort of whether or not I mind it, right? It's really not something that is a detriment to me at all. Oh, damn it. Wrong ability, or wrong button, rather. Ah, damn it. There we go. Oh, what are you guys doing back there? There we go. Yeah. I guess to bring that to a close, it's really only just this weird feeling that you get of, well, why did they decide to do it this way, right? It wasn't necessary to put Rosalith Castle in the background. If they hadn't done that, I would have never even thought about this whole topic, right? But they did for some reason, and now the scale seems off, and it's difficult to understand what they were trying to go for, right? How do I get over there, actually? I guess that's behind the village. I always forget that there is an actual map. Have I been everywhere? No, we still need to go over here, right? The Trans-Rosarian Aqueduct. Okay. So yeah, it feels like they tried to build a big bridge that sort of leads over these marshlands for whatever reason. Huh. That seems like almost a bit much, doesn't it? Oh, that leads over here. Okay. Let's go back there first. Yeah, that seems like a crazy aqueduct to build, right? I wonder why they did that. Because it's... I mean, sure, there's a bunch of monsters here, but it's not like these parts would be, you know, not really traversable. That's such a crazy ability, isn't it? I am wondering, though, why it seems like Garuda doesn't really get a finisher like that, right? When you pull an enemy towards you, you don't get those cool finishes as when you're doing the shift. Hey, Potok, welcome back. Yes, it was indeed where he grew up. We're currently trying to go back there because, well, we were kind of running out of options in terms of figuring out what the hell is going on, right? So everybody decided, hey, maybe it would be a good idea to go back to Rosaria to potentially figure out what the hell is going on. And what the hell was going on back when Clive turned, or potentially turned into Ifrit the first time. Wait, where did... Okay. I'm supposed to go over here. Man, I really wish we would have learned more about these fallen ruins at this point.
Excellent. Another fight.
Ah, there we go.
Stay down.
Nice. Wait, that was a finisher without the shift beforehand. Okay. So maybe it can also happen when you do the R1 into an attack, that you can still do the mortal blows. God, that looks so cool. I love those fallen structures in the background. I really hope they're going to be part of the main story at some point. At least that we're going to be utilizing that, right? Because they're way too interesting to not be part of the story at any given point.
Stays. That's enough.
That is such an over-the-top animation, isn't it? But yeah, I think it would be kind of cool if we had gotten a, like a specific mortal blow maybe for the Garuda abilities as well. Okay, calm down. It's already dead. Yeah, at first he was blessed by the Phoenix. Yeah, that semi-transform, I guess it's also part of the blessing. It wasn't, you know, specifically, that's, well, I mean, in terms of abilities when it comes to gameplay, that's kind of considered, I guess, a little bit of an ultimate ability, right? So you get these, when we go over to the abilities tab, there is always this one specific, really, really powerful ability that any of these icons seems to have. Garuda has one too. But yeah, in case of the story, we are blessed by the Phoenix. We're able to utilize its powers, and I guess it's, well, it kind of is sort of a semi-transform, isn't it? Yeah. Oh wait, I'm still on Garuda actually. Oh, that takes so long for him to actually do that. Oh, wait, what? Ah, right. I completely forgot that I can do that too. The takedown. Oh, that takes so long until he actually attacks. Okay, that wasn't timed very well.
You know what to do, boy.
Actually, her ice abilities look pretty awesome. Ah, I thought I could still get that in the saga. But it wasn't bad in terms of the... Ah, damn it. Really? That wasn't... Okay. I tried to evade the last second with this ability, but it didn't really work. I also thought that that was a... precision dodge, but apparently it wasn't. Okay. Do I have potions, actually? Oh yeah, 4 normal ones. Might as well use one. Hey, Luna Waffles! Hey, welcome back. You inverted the... Oh, so 61 because of 16. Yeah. I wonder if we'll ever get that high. I mean, considering that they took, what, almost 30 years to go to 16? I don't know if we'll ever reach Final Fantasy 61, honestly. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Drawbridge. Yeah, it really makes me wonder why they decided to build these ridiculously large aqueducts across the entire place, right? I mean, yeah, this is sort of a swamp area, but at the end of the day, it's not exactly difficult to traverse, but... I don't know, maybe they had the money? Weird. Yeah, that's a difficult thing to determine in terms of, like, is Clive really that special, right? Because, I mean, at the start of the game, it didn't really seem all that unusual for him to have the Blessing of the Phoenix. Like, in terms of how people treated him and his abilities, it seemed as if that was quite the normal thing to have, right? Joshua, as the dominant of the Phoenix, apparently was able to bless others, or bless his first shield, right? Sort of the first knight that protects him in this particular way, and it didn't seem all that unusual when it came to the reaction of people that Clive was able to do all these things. That being said, now we've moved on a little bit, so maybe the stronger abilities aren't all that normal for the Phoenix Blessing. Oh, really? There we go.
Let's make this quick.
Oh, there we go. I mean, all things considered, Clive definitely is special, right? I mean, there's something going on that with him that we just don't really know yet as to what it is. Because obviously he's able to draw in the powers of other icons, and so something about that must be really, really special, right? And maybe that also pertains to why he's able to, you know, use these stronger abilities. I don't know. It hasn't really been mentioned at any point, though. But there's definitely a possibility that because of whatever he has that makes him special, that only because of that reason, whatever it's going to be, maybe can the hooded figure actually imbue him with the power of Ifrit? I don't know. That would mean that whoever the hooded figure is knows about his special abilities, though. So I'm really not that sure about it. His father. Did he say something strange? Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe? I don't know, though. I think, well, his father just considered him to be a very capable soldier. I don't know. But yeah, I was also already thinking about the possibility that because he has this weird power of being able to steal the essence of other icons, that I guess in a sense, whenever the hooded figure shows up, he's technically stealing his ability too. Although obviously that still doesn't really explain why there might be a second icon of fire or anything like that, right? So that might still be another special thing that we just haven't really figured out yet. I don't know if his father knew anything or suspected anything. Honestly, I don't really think so, because wouldn't his mother also know about that? Unless, well, maybe she, you know, disregarded him so much that she simply didn't pick up on anything special about him. I don't know. Yeah, it might be some sort of special icon. That could be true. Like the protagonist, yeah, kinda, right? Being able to steal others' powers. Well, to be fair though, we don't know much about that yet. I mean, obviously the game hasn't really gone in depth as to what that could mean. The interesting part was when we stole Garuda's power, that originally it seemed like we really just took her entire power, right, from Benedicta. Because there was that whole scene with us getting that power, and then she wasn't able to use it anymore. Yet later on, she actually still completely transformed into Garuda, because she became, you know, very angry and disturbed that she didn't have the powers anymore and she was being attacked by bandits. And that led her to go, you know, fully crazy and conjure up that giant tornado. So she definitely still was, you know, Garuda, that icon, and we just stole, I guess, part of her powers, because we're also not fully transforming. We're only ever fully transforming into Ifrit, but we can use very powerful abilities of both Phoenix and Garuda, so some sort of difference there still has to exist, right? And then, yeah, in terms of... I don't know if we really took any abilities from our father. Not really, I guess. I don't know. Obviously, with Clive being the special, it's very, very difficult to discern if what people in this world know about these abilities is even still true, right? So, for example, the whole thing about... oh, wait. Wrong icon. The whole thing about these abilities only ever appearing again after the former icon died, we don't really... I mean, obviously, we can't really confirm if that's still a thing, right? Now with Clive's new abilities here. I don't know, there's definitely a few avenues this could take, and none of those have had any... none of those were mentioned so far as a possibility by any of the characters, right? Which is equally strange, that they're not kind of starting to speculate about this, I guess.
That's enough.
Really? God, I hate when that happens and you miss a couple of your abilities. Or... oh, there we go. It's missing the last Hornet. I don't actually know X-Men, so... although, wait! I think I saw a stream where somebody mentioned that same comparison. Yeah, I haven't seen X-Men. I think I've seen... wait, aren't there, like, a lot of movies by now as well? I think I've seen one. It doesn't make a lot of sense, makes me really curious to find out how they explain it. Yeah, it's just... what's so strange so far to me is that it seems like there is a lot of possible explanations here, right? We saw that fire figure, which we haven't seen again at any point. Then we took over Garuda's power, but she was still able to use it after a while. So there's all these different details that seem to hint at all kinds of different possibilities of what could have happened, yet none of those so far have had any sort of follow-up, right? Either a character mentioning it again or speculating about it, or anything else that you know, seems to confirm or deny any of these possibilities, which is very, very strange. That we do get so many suggestions as to what could be true, yet none of those seem to, or we don't get any hints, or nothing seems to indicate anything about what could or couldn't be true, right? Which is quite unusual in and of itself. Although I have to say that it's definitely, that is one, I guess, small criticism that I have of the game, is that the characters don't really ask questions, which they kind of should, right? I mean, if I was Clive and these things would be going on, I would definitely try to, you know, ask others about it, or just go more in depth with it. That being said, it is so unusual that maybe he, you know, wants to just sort of not make a big deal about it because people could be weird.
I don't care what your orders are, Brandon. You keep that sword in its sheath.
6 or 7 movies. Oh, holy shit. Heroes, is that the same universe? Honestly, I've never been big into, like, the whole, you know, comic books and like Marvel heroes and whatnot, so I'm always pretty ignorant on what exists in those universes and who belongs to what, and which doesn't mean that I don't appreciate, like...
Arthur is as friendly as Gav claims.
Oh, wait, there's an obelisk here? Oh, yeah, there. You know, I've seen some Spider-Man movies, I've seen Iron Man and whatnot, right? First 2 Avengers, I think. So it's not that I dislike that or anything, it's just I don't know much about it at all. Okay, let's just double check that I didn't miss anything on these bridges.
You barely have to step out your front door these days before you're set upon by beasts or bandits. So much for the Holy Empire bringing us a new age of enlightened order.
Okay, that was a funny way of saying that. Yeah, it's equally strange that... What the hell has the Empire been doing with this place? I mean, there are Imperial soldiers here. It just seems that they're, well, they haven't exactly abandoned this. They're definitely still controlling it. It's just that I guess they don't really care that much for it. Yeah, that looks really, really cool. It also just looks very close, though. Okay, there was someone who could use other powers. Oh. Yeah, I actually haven't watched that channel, I think, in almost 20 years. I watched it back when they still had all the anime on it. Yeah, now it's just kind of trash TV, right? Yeah, I don't know when I last watched it, actually. That must have been probably around like 2008, maybe. That's when I watched it.
Any goods to Eastpool, leave them in the pile. We'll take them over when the bridge is back up.
And when's that gonna be?
The bridge is back up? What do you mean, back up? Didn't Clive just mention that it had never been built in the first place? Or are they talking about another bridge? All things considered, this land still looks pretty, you know, great. Doesn't exactly look like something you'd abandon, right? Or not, like, fully take control of? I don't know. Maybe they are. I mean, we really haven't seen much at all so far about what the Empire is doing with this. What are you doing here?
Here, has this thing always been glowing?
No, we still don't know what these are anyways. That's another one of those weird things with this game so far, right? There's all these hints that something special is going on, yet nobody ever really bats an eye about it. So, considering that for some reason these obelisks are lighting up whenever we approach them, almost makes me think that maybe Clive is some sort of special descendant of the Fallen, right? And all of these ruins and bits and pieces are reacting to him specifically. Again, nobody has ever really mentioned that, yet clearly it seems to be part of this world, right? I mean, the villager is actually wondering about it, but nobody else is? Weird. Or Stargate, I do remember. Never really watched that either. I just remember it always running when... I think it followed up on a show that I like to watch. Stargate, actually I was always kind of intrigued by Stargate, but for whatever reason I never really got into it. Well, in terms of time shenanigans, the dialogue wouldn't really make that much sense though, right? Unless, well, I guess we have to consider that Clive hasn't been back here for 13 years, so maybe he thought that they would still be building the bridge, yet they kind of had already at one point and it got destroyed again? Although then again, it doesn't really look like that, right? So it's weird. I feel like they just mentioned, or were talking about another bridge and we simply haven't seen that yet. Hey, Turtle. Everything all right? Come here, buddy. It's just this weird thing so far that this game has where... Yeah, so, like, yeah, all the Final Fantasy games, they have some weird stuff going on, but... The thing is, with this so far... Not that much weirdness is actually going on. It's just that sometimes the characters seem incredibly oblivious or not very, how do you say that? Like, investigative about what they're finding, right? So they glance over a lot of stuff that would normally make you go, huh, that's strange. Why is that happening, right? And it's sort of, I don't yet know if the game actually... In case of these obelisks, for example, right? It seems partly as if the game is just utilizing that as sort of a gameplay mechanic. Oh, hey, here's a thing that lets you fast travel to certain places, right? Which would be totally fine if it was simply a game mechanic and the game said, well, we don't really want to explain it because we couldn't bother to do that, so... Because a lot of games do that, right? A lot of games have these sort of elements that are purely there for gameplay purposes and they don't actually really, I guess, quote-unquote, exist within the world, right? And then other games are very, very intricate with their lore and everything, and they try to explain everything. So you have these two sort of opposite approaches to things. And what I find so confusing currently about Final Fantasy XVI is that it almost seems as if the game can't really make up its mind about whether or not these things are supposed to be part of the game world with actual explanations to them, or if they're purely here for gameplay purposes, right? That's the thing that currently kind of confuses me, because it's very, very strange how the characters talk about some of the stuff, because sometimes these things do get mentioned, which seems to suggest that they're actually part of the world, yet they don't get mentioned enough to the point where anybody's actually asking questions about it. So that seems to suggest that it's more a gameplay thing. And I have to admit, I haven't really seen any other game do it this way, right? But then again, maybe it's too early to talk about this. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a bunch of explanations eventually. But yeah, it is, I have to admit, it is somewhat confusing. I don't even really mind it all that much. It's just one of those funny things that
There's one missing.
I just haven't really had in any game like this so far, I think. Oh, there was a movie that started Stargate. I didn't actually know that. I always thought it was just a TV series, honestly. Wait, so that... one character was originally played by another character and he wasn't that great in the movie? Is that what you're saying? Oh, Stargate made you curious about space and science. Yeah, that was Star Trek for me. I always used to watch the second, what's it called? The Next Generation, right? With Patrick Stewart. That used to run on a channel in the afternoon when I came home from school. So I used to watch that quite a bit, actually. Oh, Kurt Russell, okay. He played that. Wait, he played that in the show. Not in the movie? But it is pretty cool. I do think that's an awesome thing that those kind of TV shows exist and existed, because yeah, it's really quite interesting that those can make people interested in space and all that technology.
So much for all parts of the Empire being equal, if that's all the crystal they give us.
And it's not like any of us lowborn can afford a bearer anymore.
Okay, yeah, it definitely seems to suggest that the Empire is neglecting this region somewhat. Although I don't yet fully understand why. It might just be a resource thing, right? That they simply don't have enough people to control all of their provinces. I mean, that's typically how it goes, right? When you do have control over provinces, it's not exactly easy to hold them. Do have to say, this is quite a beautiful place. I like this a lot. Oh, hey, there we go. Orchestrion roll. I do have to say, though, overall, they're not exactly leading a bad life here, right? It also seems like everything's still, you know, in shape. It's not like any of these buildings are broken or need repairs or something. Oh, hey, maybe this is the bridge they were talking about, because this does look a little bit broken, honestly.
Fixed when it's fixed, all right?
Yeah, it seems like this is what they were talking about.
Yesterday.
Does this man even know what he's doing?
The bridge is down. If you're headed for East Pool, you'll have to wait.
Okay. How convenient, though, right? That's a big thing in RPGs. Always broken bridges. It's, you know, not like we could jump across or anything. I mean, we could also swim. I don't know. Can Clive actually swim? I know that, obviously, swimming is not part of the game, but I wonder if that's because Clive actually cannot swim, or they just didn't bother to implement swimming. Not that I mind that.
I hear the levies are due to go up again.
Found her help us. Bastards will be squeezing us until there ain't a drop left.
Okay. So they do have to sort of pay taxes, I would think, to the Empire, right? Hmm.
Do you like that? Oh, there's plenty more where that came from.
Show has an amazing cast and has a lot of humor. Okay, that actually sounds pretty great. It's time for 200 episodes these days. Yeah, that's kind of true. I think that might be why I never really got into Stargate. It's less about the show in and of itself, or, you know, what it looked like to me or anything. It's just as because I was already watching Star Trek at that point, right? So I felt like I didn't really need to get into yet another show. I don't know. Also, I think, at least from the... Because obviously, back when TV was still a thing, you used to get these... you know, they were always doing the previews, I guess, of what they were going to show later that evening or whatever. And I think I always thought that... Stargate was already kind of, I don't know, with Star Trek, it always felt like you could just tune in to any episode, and maybe that was actually the case for Stargate as well. Obviously, I don't know, seeing as I haven't seen it, but with Star Trek, it always felt like you could just watch whenever you wanted to, and it would still make sense because the episodes were kind of self-contained. Yes, sure, there was, you know, a little bit going on in the background, and sometimes you had episodes that actually continued, you know, in another one. But for the most part, it was a series that you could just watch an episode or two and be totally fine, right, and not really miss anything. Whereas I feel like, at least from the previews that I saw, I think I thought that Stargate kind of required you to watch like from beginning to end, right? So maybe that's also why I never decided to actually watch it. But, you know, that's a long time ago at this point. So I really don't remember what the hell might have been going on there. Empires always, yeah, it seems to be the case that empires are typically evil, right? Though, interestingly enough, in this particular case, Rosaria always seems to have had a relationship with the empire, like a, or maybe not a positive one, I think that would be a bit too much, but certainly a relationship that was mutually beneficial to a certain extent. Seems the empire was, well, they were working together to a certain extent because Rosaria probably was kind of a good shield against the Iron Man, for example, right? And yeah, them sort of making an alliance together probably held off other countries or other nations from invading. Stargate 1 is episodic. Okay, yeah, so it's definitely a show that more or less requires you to watch the episodes in order, right? It seems to. In this particular case, it is a church empire, so yeah, bonus points, I guess. Bonus points awarded.
For that mark, I'd be on you like a rash.
Oh, hello. Okay. Wait, so bearers are not allowed to, I guess, use these particular services? Huh. Interesting. Or maybe it's more so that they... Well, okay, so considering that bearers are kind of looked at as tools, I guess they wouldn't really have money on their own, right? We're not allowed to enter, though.
You ain't pulled that sword from its scabbard in days. Come on, come inside.
I'll be happy to show you how well I wield my blade after my shift's over.
Mm-hmm. Wait, you're still working? That's not work, mister. If your superior sees this, I don't think he's gonna be happy with that. Huh. This is not exactly a big village, right? Interesting that they have an establishment like this. Well, then again, it's sort of on the outskirts of the city, so I guess it makes more sense if you look at it this way, right? I have to say, the overall design of this village is pretty cool, though. Really seems to suggest that we're kind of, yeah, on the outskirts of a bigger city.
You're the latest from Del Mechia.
Titan spat with Shiva. Crusaders didn't stand a chance even with an icon.
Ooh, hello. Wait, we get a merchant here? That's cool. What are you doing? Oh, he's cooling the fish. They have a lot of stuff here, right?
You're aiming that at the fish there, son. Keep them nice and fresh.
I mean, when you see this, you would think that they kind of live quite a good life here, right? Huh. Nothing really seems to suggest that they have A lot of troubles or anything? That's a lot of wares and like pretty elaborate fabric and all kinds of things here. Hey, you have anything of interest?
That's right.
Gaia blade. Oh, wait, I have the +2 crafted, yeah, so I don't really need these. Valley Madder. An inconspicuous shrub commonly found growing near mother crystals. Its roots are harvested to create a deep red dye. But unlike most pigments, madder root extract does more than merely stain cloth. It imbues it with a faint elemental charge that can ethereally enhance both bearer and crystal-based magics. Okay, that's very interesting. So you can weave that into cloth. The Founder's Footsteps Orchestrion Roll, 20,000 gil. Is there a way to farm gil? I mean, I guess the thing that I can use in the hideaway, the stone slab, where you can also access arcade mode, there's definitely like a grind mode in there as well. I just didn't think that it would give you that much gil, because the Orchestrion rolls that I found so far are really, really expensive. Okay, we do still have potions, so that's fine. Can I sell anything? Oh yeah, we have some valuables. Nice. Not much else to sell, though. I could sell this, I guess. Eh, sure.
Is that everything?
Won't really want to use it either way. That's fine. Yeah, the whole Final Fantasy multiverse is an interesting thing, let me put it that way. To be fair, though, that's why I actually love Final Fantasy XIV so much. I really, really like the world building of 14. And the thing that they've done with the multiple calamities that kind of destroyed the world again and again, right? Because it just gives you a lot of opportunities for different sort of levels of technology that have been present at certain points throughout history, but also a reason for why it isn't around anymore, right? Which is pretty cool. And then in 14, you have this funny, cool sort of thing where they have magic, but they also have a lot of technology, but it's technology that had existed a couple of thousands of years ago, right? So they're not on that level yet where they completely understand how it worked, but sometimes they can use certain parts of it. Just opens a lot of avenues for a lot of different things. And typically, honestly, I'm personally a big fan of whenever there are games, sort of fantasy games that have magic, yet they also put big emphasis on explaining it in a more scientific way. And 14 does that, which is why I like it a lot for that. They have a lot of stuff where it really goes actually pretty in depth in terms of the sort of science behind the magic, which is pretty cool. And it actually makes sense, which is even better.
Been doing Elfie trade with the folk from the monastery of late.
Funny how Griga's servants always seem to have full purses.
Our Griga being the goddess they're worshipping. Holy shit, that's a lot of mushrooms. Wow. I mean, I guess this really is sort of the major trade hub for wares going in and out of the city, or for people going in and out of the city, rather. So I guess that would explain why they have so much in terms of, you know, food and supplies and whatnot here. It just doesn't really mention what parts of these are, like, if they have that much. The Empire doesn't seem to take too much of that for themselves, huh? Okay. Oh, wait, I can actually... We can actually go down? Do I want that, though? Oh, yeah, it continues over here. Martha's Rest. This is a very, very big open area. I'm actually quite surprised that the game is suddenly utilizing such... If it can do that, Why were the other areas so contained? Maybe they didn't want to open it up that much early on.
Make sure you're aiming that at the fish there, son.
Oh, that's a sleeping chocobo? Is that what the place is called? Or what exactly is going on there? Well, let's see who we can meet here.
It was good, honest work building that aqueduct.
Back when we had proper leaders and proper trades. Not just selling our blades and our bodies.
I wonder how long they still built that, though. The way they're talking about it, it doesn't really seem as if it's been 13 years, right? It seems more like it's been maybe half a year or something. Martha Brooks No Sharps. The following cheatery will be repaid with a swift boot to the arse. Mucking, stacking, packing, peeking, palming, foisting, fingering. Okay. Interesting. On dressing greens of Gissel. 1. Never down raw, lest bitter juices inspire violent retching and loose bowels. Okay. 2nd. Avoid the fry pan, lest foul stink taint the iron, rendering it none better than slag. And 3. By no means put to stew, lest the vapors overexcite stabled bows. If suffer the fodder one must, first mix with 9 parts drake's mint, 6 parts lemon peel, or 3 parts ginger root, and soak in honeyed wine for a quarter moon to lessen malodor. Wait, are they... I thought Gissel greens were only there for chocobos. This is almost as if they also eat them? Like people eat them? Weird, but okay.
We should think about pressing on.
All right. Just let me get this down.
Excuse me? Yeah, weird sort of things that are apparently punished here. Hello. Cute headscarf.
Excuse me. Would you happen to be the landlady?
Depends who's asking, and why they have an Imperial bearer with them.
For protection, which hopefully won't be needed. If you can advise me on the safest route to the west.
It's your friend here I'd be worried about. Bearers don't have an easy time of it in Rosaria. Even a Stratton lad like him might attract the wrong kind of attention. And if he gets nabbed, it ain't likely to end well for you either.
Then we'll just have to stay out of the malicious way. Gav said you might be able to help us.
Oh yeah, she's on our side. I completely forgot about that. She's actually in on the whole Sid's hideaway thing, right? With bearers being free and whatnot.
Sorry for before. Can't be too wary of strangers asking questions in our game. I'm Martha, an old friend of Sid's. He said he had high hopes for a bearer who joined recently. I expect that's you. So, where is it you're headed?
For Phoenix Gate. We have questions that need answering.
Is that so? Well, if you want to avoid the garrison, the road through Eastpool's your best bet. Or it would be, if the bridge hadn't collapsed. A right bloomin' nuisance it is. We've had no trade with the village for weeks.
I wouldn't call that collapse, but alright.
To take a look at it. But he went out on another job, and he hasn't come back.
Do you think something might have happened to him?
Fingers crossed he's just taking his time. The alternative don't bear thinking about.
We'll find him. And make sure he's safe. We both need that bridge repaired. Your carpenter sounds like the man to do it.
I see why Sid's got such a soft spot for you. If you could, I'd be in your debt.
You said that he went out on a job?
Right. He went down into the marshes to check on another bridge. The one by the Fallen Gate.
The marshes were dangerous at the best of times. We should hurry.
There's a ladder to the side of the gate. That's the quickest way down, if you've a head for heights. His name is Bernard. Should you find him well, tell him Martha sent you, and that he's wanted at the bridge to Eastpool.
Alright. Can do that. Although it seems rather strange to me that they seem to have very, very good trade going on here, right? Seeing all the bits and pieces that you can potentially buy at the markets. Yet the marshlands are super dangerous? I don't know, that doesn't really fit that well together either.
Let's find that ladder.
Well...
Don't know what Bernard was playing at, going into the marshes alone. If he's ended up in a crab's belly, it's his own stupid fault. The ladder by the gate will get you there quickest, if it's not already too late.
Okay. Good thing we didn't really go down there first. Interesting that that's considered a different quest. So it's like a side quest of the main story, even though it's required for the other one? Okay. Well, sure. Why not?
We should think about pressing on.
Oh, we can talk to him now?
Talking to you. If there's anything you need, ask Martha.
Why can you not... What? Couldn't the bearer still, like, eat here with his mistress? And wouldn't the bearer ask anything? Okay. Sometimes it's a little bit confusing as to, you know, what the hell is going on. I do understand, though, that we potentially have to go around the garrison. Well, first of all, I'm now not entirely sure where Phoenix Gate actually is supposed to be. Because technically that would be between this place and the Rosalith Castle. Yet you can already see the castle in the distance, so... Don't know where Phoenix Gate was at. Shouldn't that be visible then as well? Maybe it's part of the aqueduct or something and I didn't realize it before? Could be. And then I was actually wondering about what exactly the problem was of us being a bearer. But I think, considering that we were, like Clive was a soldier, a bearer soldier in the Imperial Army. So if we were to run into actual garrisons of the Imperial Army, I guess they would question why the heck we're on this sort of weird mission outside of Imperial territory, or not. Well, technically we're in a province of the Empire, but yeah, they would probably start asking questions, I guess. So that's why we have to go around. That being said, I mean, we have already met Imperial soldiers. I don't know, maybe they're not Imperial soldiers as such, but are instead Rosarian soldiers that are just now kind of, you know, they have to work for the Empire? I don't know. Martha Brooks, no sharps. Why is this here? Okay. Oh wait, that's actually down there. I thought we had to take the elevator now. Didn't... It sounded as if we had to. I guess not. If he's just...
Here's the gate. And that must be the ladder. And when's that gonna be?
A couple of these quests are weird. We actually came by that place. Shouldn't we have run into him earlier? What? Also, he's literally right next to the city. Wouldn't a soldier be able to just see him down there and help out? Or anybody, really? What's up with you, huh?
I don't care what your orders are, Brandon.
keep that sword in its sheath.
Like, he's got a sword. Oh, that actually is cool. Lighting a cigarette with the crystal. I don't know. These... I have to say, I'm not a big fan of the quest design so far. The story's great. Like, I think the story works really well, and the cutscenes, whenever they appear and whatnot, are really, really well done. But the sort of normal quest design is really rather strange. It's as if they haven't actually properly taken into account sort of the distance between places, or what it would actually mean if somebody was down here, right? There we go. Okay, and why do we get the big screen like this all of a sudden? Just because it was a main quest thing?
Thank you, my lady. You saved my life.
Not at all. You're Bernard the carpenter, yes?
I am. I didn't realize my name was known so widely.
I'm a friend of Martha's. She asked us to come and find you.
Well, I'm very grateful for it. I just finished checking these piles when I turn around. I see a gang of slavering monsters looking to feast on my flesh. If you hadn't come when you did, I'd have been snipped into strips by now.
Yeah, because no one else seems to care.
I best go and give my regards to the landlady then, eh?
Actually, she asked that if we found you, we should beg you make haste to repair the bridge to Eastpool.
Of course. I said I'd take a look at it, but it clean slipped my mind. I'll head up there straight away.
Yeah, it's not like it's been the biggest problem apparently for weeks in this town, and it slipped your mind. Okay. Understandable. I guess the gap is actually a little bit wider than I originally thought.
The trusses are still sturdy. It's just a matter of replacing the stringers and relining the deck. I'll have it done in no time.
Thank you, Bernard. We were hoping to take the road to Eastpool ourselves. We're very grateful for your help. And sorry for asking this of you after what you've been through.
I owe you my life. Fixing a bridge is the least I can do. Thank you, my lady. And you too, son. You're with Sid, ain't ya? Me and him will go way back. Not as far as Martha, mind, but far enough.
I see.
Well, I best get cracking then. You go and let Martha know I'm all right, and she'll have her bridge back soon enough.
We will.
Actually, that does bring up a couple of questions about Sid as well. I guess he must have known all these people already before he became part of the Waloed Kingdom, right? Because otherwise, seeing as they're all the way off to the east, I feel like it would have been strange for him to know all these people afterwards, right? Yeah, probably knew him from before. Which brings up another question of where Sid was up until this, up until the point before he joined the Waloeders. Wish we could have asked him about that. By the way, those waterfalls in the distance look really cool. The game certainly does have its moments. Not a big fan of the textures of the mountains in the background, but oh well.
The bridge will be fixed when it's fixed, alright?
But I was supposed to be in Eastpool yesterday.
Does this man even know what he's doing?
Oh, she just... Okay, I was really confused why her lip movement didn't match what she was just saying, but I don't think they do that usually.
If you're headed for Eastpool, you'll have to wait.
Makes me... Why didn't this dialogue change? Didn't they see us going down there with the carpenter, and the carpenter, you know, shouldn't he be working on it right now? Oh well.
I hear the levies are due to go up.
Do you like that? Let's play more of that.
Well, Let's tell Martha about this, shall we?
It was good, honest work.
Ah, you're back. What happened? Did you find Bernard?
We did. He's fine, and he'll have the bridge to Eastpool repaired soon.
Well, thank the Founder for that.
It was lucky we found him when we did. The creatures out there are not to be trifled with.
Out there, as if we were somewhere far off in the marshlands, right?
So they come down here hunting for food. He can't keep going out alone. I'll have to arrange a guard for him. But anyway, thank you. I don't have a lot to offer in return, but you're welcome to rest here until the repairs are finished.
I'll take you up on that offer.
We'd be delighted.
I think we've kind of earned some rest.
Can I get you a drink or anything while you wait? Flagon of Imperial Gold, perhaps? Tastes like swill, but it'll slake a thirst.
No, thank you.
Why not?
I prefer the truth. About why there are so few bearers around here.
Yes. There were more of them when we were young. Far more.
Is this the Empire's doing? Have they been sent away?
They have, aye. Either to the Legions or Oriflamme. Seems the miners at Drake's Head are having a hard time keeping up with demand of late, so the bearers make up the shortfall. Time was they used to dole out crystals like sugar plums even down here in the provinces, but not anymore. Nowadays, they'll jump at any excuse to confiscate our bearers so they can be put to work elsewhere. I always knew the Empire treated their branded like shit, but after seeing it with my own eyes, well...
Ah, Thea! Congratulations on the new arrival.
Who's that?
And you got the little laddie with you?
It was a bearer. The boy I carried for 9 long moons. A bloody bearer.
Oh, you poor thing. You gave it to the constables then?
Just left it at the garrison, aye. Let them deal with it.
Okay, that sounds pretty fucked up and wrong.
Thing. Been wanting it gone since the moment I found out.
Well, it's all dealt with now. So no harm done, eh?
Mum, you weren't my brother, was he?
No. But you'll have one soon enough. You just have to be patient. All right?
All right.
Yeah, that's not fucked up at all, right? The mother, like, treating the kid as if it was...
Bearers may have been looked down on back in Archduke Elwin's day, but they were still human beings. Now they've fallen so far, a beggar wouldn't spit on them. Since you're not drinking, do me a favour and take that to the Abbey. There's a darkness at the heart of this world, and I'd have you see it.
And we'll see it at an abbey?
Glademond Abbey, on the shore of Sorrowwise Bay. The abbot there is a friend. Tell him Martha sent you, and he'll show you what I mean.
Understood.
Strange, but alright. Well, I have to say, that does explain a lot more why, you know, everybody sort of said, hey, you probably shouldn't show yourself all that much. So it seems like, well, I mean, that's kind of the thing that's going on in this world, right? Is that resources are actually getting scarce to a certain degree. Because the Blight is advancing, you know, Ether is... kind of removing itself from the land, and the different nations are struggling for resources, struggling for magic, right, and for crystals, and bearers, obviously, seeing as they have innate magical abilities. So it makes sense that the Empire obviously would think about themselves first and not really that much about the provinces, and they would be removing all of the bearers and whatnot as much as they could from their provinces in order to put them to work on their own territory. I feel like that still clashes somewhat with the sheer amount of food and whatnot we've seen on the markets, because, I mean, as long as you have those, what exactly is the problem, right? And then one thing that I'm also still somewhat struggling with in terms of, you know, understanding it is, yes, the bearers are being looked down upon, right? Clearly they're slaves, they're seen as less than human, but at the end of the day, they're still very, very useful, right? I mean, their magic is needed in order for other people to live. So as much as they're looked at as tools, I would think they would be very, very happy to have those tools, right? That is something that I'm currently not really understanding, especially with that woman too. She sounded more like the Iron Man in the sense, right? Because the Iron Man are looking at the bearers and everything magic as something unnatural, something that is, you know, filthy and shouldn't be touched, right? That's sort of their kind of religious belief, I think. So in that particular case, I would have understood if they said, you know, get that thing away from me. I don't want to have anything to do with it. Wouldn't the people here, though, look at it as almost a blessing to a certain degree? Like, obviously, they still wouldn't regard them as human, right? She wouldn't have regarded a bearer as her own child, but wouldn't she still think that it's something that could be useful for her family? Unless maybe she is afraid that, you know, it gets taken away by the Empire because they want to seize their resource. Still, I'm having trouble understanding their sort of, you know, they're both angry at the Empire for taking their resources and bearers, for that matter, away. Yet they also are glad to have them gone? I don't know. That's somewhat strange to me. I don't know. We treat tools with respect up until they're bipedal and have a face. Yeah. Humans can actually be very, very strange that way. I mean, there's a lot of people out in our world that, like, you know, treat pets as more than other humans sometimes. And yeah, it's all a very strange thing sometimes. We can be very, very, you know, sort of, can always pick and choose what we like and completely disregard everything else to the point where it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I guess that's also what they're trying to display here. It's just, it seems like they went out of their way to show that other nations in this world, you know, have a very different stance on that whole thing.
Don't be shy. Fresh cuts. Get your fresh cuts here.
It just feels like a bunch of sort of ideas and lore bits are kind of clashing in this place, and it's a bit strange to understand how it all works. It's a very sophisticated elevator, though.
I knew that children were tested, that a bearer's fate was decided at birth.
And assumed it was best for all concerned. I know. But for a child to be blamed, to be hated by its parents through no fault of its own.
We knew nothing of what it meant to be born that way, did we?
No.
I mean, to be fair, both of you grew up in a place where they weren't exactly looked down upon that much, right? I mean, sure, they were still branded and used as tools, but they were actually still treated quite well. So, you know, obviously in that particular case, maybe you wouldn't really think all that much about it because you didn't really...
Wish I had a bow to call my own.
A bow? Is that short for chocobo? A bow? Wait, so who do these two belong to? Why are you standing in front of them? That's weird. Sorrow-wise. Alright, so that's where we're supposed to be going. I want to make sure, obviously, that I grab all the optional bits and pieces here. Yeah, I'm actually quite surprised, and I find it really cool how extensive this level is. Just makes me wish that the earlier levels would have been equally as big. Because it feels like it's fitting quite well with the gameplay and whatnot. Because it's just fun to, you know, just fight a bunch of random monsters from time to time. That ability does look quite, you know, ridiculous whenever you're kind of doing it like this. There we go. It does make me wonder how much they want you to grind, or even if they want you to do that at all. Like, is it required to fight these monsters or not? Or I still didn't time it correctly. Didn't really time that correctly either. I'm really having trouble to... oh, I can only really hit its head. That's interesting. I'm sometimes really having trouble to get precision dodges off with these particular monsters. Oh, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that timing isn't that easy to hit, honestly. Come on, do the... There we go. Why wasn't he doing the down jump? That was very strange. Nope. That was badly timed again. Ah, okay. So... Oh, wrong time again. I'm still trying to figure out how to exactly get the best out of my healing whenever I use the Big Phoenix ability. I don't exactly know how that scales. It's a bit strange because the ability itself just mentions the regain. So whenever you're fighting, right, up on your HP bar, there's like a certain section that is, well, not really grayed out, but it's sort of only faintly green, right? And that's the amount that you can theoretically heal. So it's called regain, but the game itself hasn't really explained that mechanic at all. You can somehow utilize it with your Big Phoenix ability, right? And so the healing that ability can do is determined on that regain, on the amount of regain that you have at that point. But I don't fully understand yet how... Oh, really? Right. There we go. Why not? What? There we go. Why wasn't it drawing it in? Okay. That was a miss again. Hey, there we go. Level up. Cool. Yeah, I don't really understand how, like, what exactly determines the amount of regain, right? And then at the same time, I also don't quite yet have a feeling for whether or not I should try to increase that regain. I mean, it's also, it's very difficult to do considering that I don't know how to increase it. But, you know, if I just assume that maybe it's dependent on, I don't know, the way you are currently fighting at that point. Like the more abilities you combo and whatnot, maybe it It just gives you more regain that way, right? But I don't know if it would be worth it to hold off on using your ability until you have a lot of regain accumulated. I don't even know if it stays around for that long or eventually just goes down again. Because at the end of the day, the ability in and of itself is still dealing out quite a bit of damage, right? So you don't want to wait too long to use it. Because otherwise, yeah, you're just losing out on damage, right? There we go. Nice. Did that correctly this time around. There we go. There we go. Oh, you know what might have happened earlier? When I was confused why I wasn't able to jump down. I think it's kind of considering, because... Ah, damn it. Mistimed it again. Ooh, holy shit. So he has like a certain... you know, place that can't be hit, so the you can only really hit it from the front, I think. And the problem is when you... Oh, okay, it's still counted. Nope. Yeah, looking up top there with the regain, seems like there's a certain amount you can get, but it doesn't really go any further than that. So it's like, I want to say about 10% of your HP gauge, but I can't really go over that. That is, I wish those things were mentioned within the ability descriptions, honestly, right? That it said something along the lines of, you know, regain cannot exceed, I don't know, 10% of your HP. Because honestly, that does in fact make the ability a little bit less usable than what I originally thought, considering that it costs like, I don't know, 3-4 times the amount to unlock it in terms of ability points compared to the other abilities. Seems strange to me that it then isn't stronger necessarily. I mean, to a certain extent it is, but not as much as I thought it would be, I guess. There we go. One very, very cool thing that you can actually pull off is when you, like, draw them in, you can just, you know, whenever you do want to get that mortal blow off, right, the cool kill animation, you can just very, very quickly change to Phoenix and then try and do it. It's pretty cool. Is that like a special rare chocobo over there? Okay, I need to make sure not to miss anything here. Also, I wonder if these things respawn at any point. Probably only if you sort of come back here later on, right? I'd imagine.
It's over. You know what to do, boy. Keep your distance, boy. That's enough.
There we go. I really also need to remember one thing that I haven't really done this far, so far, or I haven't, well, I have done it, it's just that I keep forgetting, is to use my triangle, you know, magic, oh, that looks like a special chest. The triangle ability after my melee combo. Alright, not that great in terms of loot, but alright. Bunch of these fallen ruins over here. Yeah, it's pretty crazy to me just how extensive this level is. It's much bigger than all the other places. It's also just really cool how it's these flat marshlands, and then obviously with the small village up top the rock. Has a very, very cool look to it. I wish a bunch of the other levels had been more extensive like this. I don't know. Would have felt more immersive, I think. Bluebird. Oh, wait. So the chocobos aren't actually enemies, but the bird is?
There's the abbey. Darkness awaits us within, I wonder.
Let's go and see.
Oh, now the chocobos are angry. Okay. Yeah, see, in this particular case, I did not have regain still. So is this their leader bird, or what the hell is going on? Ah, yeah, that's the abbey, okay. Well, before I go there, I want to obviously deal with all the optional stuff in the area. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Nice. Also, we've heard quite a lot that they, you know, the people have been building their own or new homes within the existing fallen structures. Because they're so durable, right? And they cannot really work with this material. It seems to be some sort of ceramic, as far as I've read so far in the lore. I would have thought that they'd maybe take these shards to use them somewhere, right? I mean, wouldn't people try to incorporate these into their homes? To a certain extent, at least? Oh, hey, they still missed some creatures over here, apparently. That is actually really fun to draw them down, right? Like that. Okay, wait. So it unlocked right now? Hmm. Yeah, I don't know how regain works exactly. Oh, huh. You know what? Considering regain, maybe it works more like in Bloodborne. I think it was... Well, or rather, I assumed the whole time that the HP regain that you could get from that ability would be determined by, you know, how well you fight. And then eventually it's going to, you know, grow further and further, and you could just get a bunch of HP back. But I don't think that's actually how it works. I think it's just that whenever you hit, kind of like in Bloodborne, you know, that amount of HP that you lose is considered what you can regain through the Phoenix ability. Yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense. So I just misunderstood the word, more or less. Ah, right. Yeah, that just makes a whole lot more sense. So whenever you're hit, you can replenish, or you can, like, literally regain the HP you lost by utilizing the Phoenix ability. Okay, that's pretty cool. Does mean that you cannot actually heal, though, with it, right? Which is kind of at least what I had hoped it would do.
My wounds, boy.
Ah. Right, yeah. Honestly, I wish that was something that the game kind of had explained a little bit more. Because now that also explains why... or not why, but it explains how I misunderstood Torgal's healing as well. Because the entire time, I didn't even realize... Well, now I honestly feel a bit dumb for not realizing that, but that's the difference between potions and Torgal's heals. So whenever you get damaged, Torgal is actually able to heal that damage, that regain portion of your HP bar, At least to a certain extent. I don't think he can heal it fully, but he can heal your wounds, right? But the more permanent damage that has been done. So I think the way it works, at least from what I could glean, or when I try to remember what I did earlier, it seems like whenever I'm hit, you know, that part can still be regained. Again, same thing as in Bloodborne, although that will slightly differently. But when you're hit again, that sort of counts as a new hit, so you can only ever regain stuff from the previous hit, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it also takes into account a certain amount of time or something, and after that time is up, you know, that portion of your HP is just kind of permanently gone until you use a potion. Okay, now it kind of awkwardly didn't know again what enemy I was trying to hit. Yeah, that does mean though that it's not actually worth it to keep it on cooldown, right? Oh, how the hell did we already alert all the other enemies to us? Nice. Wait, this is kind of strange. How did we alert all these enemies to us? Usually it's only the ones that are in the immediate vicinity, right? That try to attack you. That was strange. Hey, buddy. Nice. That is really, really satisfying to pull off, I have to admit. $10,000, all right. Getting better at this. And I really, really have to say it again. You know, getting off the... Oh, damn it. Getting off the precision dodges is insanely satisfying. If you time it correctly, that is. There we go. Now I can regain something. Yeah, that was from the previous hit. Okay. Yeah, it is somewhat strange when I think back how much the game is relying on, you know, tutorials that are constantly on your screen at the start of the game. Yet somehow it doesn't actually explain the more intricate abilities that you have, or rather how they work in conjunction with each other, right? Like the regain, for example. Wait. Oh, wait. Wrong icon, okay. I'll probably use a potion. I have to say the regain does have a similar problem to the ability cooldowns and whatnot, that it's kind of out of the way. Like, whenever you're fighting, it's actually not that easy to keep track of the HP, or rather whether or not HP can still be regained while you're fighting, because it's not immediately apparent sort of in your peripheral vision. There's a bunch of stuff actually in this game that, in terms of the UI, is a little bit weird, because it's... You actually have to look at it, right? You have to shift your eyes to the corner of your screen constantly to look at cooldowns, look at regain and whatnot. instead of being able to see that in your peripheral vision. So I do wish that the, I don't know, UI was designed more to facilitate that. And or you were able to customize it. Honestly, considering that these are at least partially the developers that were responsible for Final Fantasy XIV, it does seem somewhat weird to me that the game doesn't feature any sort of customization when it comes to the controls, like full customization, right? Obviously, there are a couple of different control schemes, but yeah, I'm quite surprised that they don't really utilize that stuff, right? Where you would think that typically, seeing as they have so extensive customization in 14, that they would have more or less learned their lesson with that and incorporated that into other games as well. I think that it's definitely, and I said that earlier, that I was a little bit surprised that sort of these more modern elements and the more classical Final Fantasy elements are sort of clashing in this game, and I feel like they don't really mix well with each other so far. It's again, sort of just a tiny complaint, but it certainly is something that is noticeable. Same goes for that customization and all of that, right? Especially with that big focus that a lot of other games have put ever since kind of The Last of Us 2 released on accessibility and whatnot. This game doesn't do that at all. I mean, arguably the accessibility options overall are pretty bad in 14 as well, but at least you get so much customization that you can kind of, you know, just manually adjust stuff to be very accessible if you want that. But in this game, it doesn't have that at all. And that does seem rather strange to me. I missed that again. You really need to be careful not to do that after your melee combo or within your melee combo even. Because it seems to push, you know, things further away from you.
That's enough.
There we go. I think that should more or less be all the enemies you can fight here. Or is there another chocobo? Because I see two normal chocobos walking around here, but I don't see another one of those colorful birds, it seems. Can we just... Oh, never mind. Okay, now I feel bad because they weren't actually hostile towards me, but experience and whatnot, right? That looks really cool. Wait, I've already been over there though, right? Yeah. I have to say, at least partially, the ship design definitely reminds me of the Garleans in 14. But I guess, in general, a bunch of these designs, well, they are also somewhat similar to things that we have had in 15, I think. So, I think that's very much done on purpose though, right? That they kind of resemble some things that we've already seen in Final Fantasy, but obviously still are supposed to be their own thing. Which is arguably one of the things that I like the most about the Final Fantasy universe, is this idea of, hey, we're sort of taking the same ideas, the same monsters, enemies, names and whatnot, but they're always slightly... They're always represented slightly differently in every single game, but it still works within the context of each game. And seeing how you can spin these things in many different directions is always nice to see. Hey, what's up?
I'm afraid the Abbey is not open for public prayer. May Griga go with you?
Wait, did the Empire build this? Or was it...
We came to offer a donation. From Martha.
I see. Then please, follow me.
I don't want to die. Please, Father. Something for the pain. I beg you.
The light. It fades. I don't want to die alone.
Oh, is he treating bearers in here?
It's all right. I'm here.
Who are these people?
Martha's bearers. She entrusted them to my care, that I might ease their suffering. To the extent that I can. For the time they have left.
What is happening to them?
The curse has taken them. All of them.
Wait,
As
what?
it does every bearer forced to use their gift. With each draw on the ether, their bodies petrify, till all that remains is stone and pain, and so they are cast aside.
Well, I didn't know that.
There's nothing either Martha or I can do to change that. But we can at least strive to make their final hours a little more bearable. Have faith, my son, for you shall rise again, and find the happiness denied you in this life. Thank you, Father.
Yeah, the bearable line was a bit weird, wasn't it? Felt like it didn't really fit the circumstances, honestly.
I must offer you my own thanks for the medicine you so kindly brought. Now their final moments may be moments of peace. When next you see Martha, pray tell her that 2 more have succumbed. We should get back to Martha's Rest.
Yes, we should.
Okay, that was pretty fucked up. Is it the Blight? Yeah, that's... I don't know, really. It feels like they're playing a bit fast and loose with a couple of words or ways that they use to describe certain things. This came as quite a big surprise, honestly. We haven't seen anything up until this point that seemed to suggest that there's any... I mean, we saw that the Dominants apparently have some sort of illness. But it wasn't referenced as a curse up until this point, like ever, as far as I can recall. Nor have we ever seen anything that seemed to suggest that bearers, you know, get ill. Which now in retrospect, that is really weird. I mean, well, to be fair, it could be that they're just taken very, very quickly, right? So once their, I guess, ether in their body is gone, maybe they sort of turn into stone very quickly. Because I would have thought that it takes quite a while, right? And that it maybe is a slow and painful process, but I guess it's not, maybe? But we've also not seen anything that would hint at them being disposed of, I guess. Like, if people really do treat them as tools, and they eventually die because of what they're used for, wouldn't we have seen people sort of simply disposing bearers, the dead bearers? It's just, I feel like this came rather suddenly, without anything really hinting at the fact that this is happening. I mean, yes, it has been mentioned multiple times how badly bearers are treated and that they're only used as tools and slaves and whatnot, but that they die because of that and do so in a fairly painful manner, I feel like that subject would have come up at any point. Yeah, and then the Blight. The Blight, all of that actually is a bit of a mystery so far. And also it has had many different names. I mean, sometimes it's just called, you know, the regions are called the Deadlands, and then we sort of have the Blight, and the Blight just seems to be, well, so far it didn't even really seem to be a thing as such. It felt like it was more a reference to places that are now devoid of ether. I mean, obviously there has to be some sort of explanation as to why that is happening, and we haven't really heard anything about that either. But for now, for the most part, it almost seemed as if it was just sort of a natural process. At least that's what I assumed, right? Considering that the big mother crystals are sort of the main resources that are used here, right? Almost as we talked the other day about it, like fossil fuels almost, right? Just that in this particular case, they seem to be very connected to nature and the land in and of itself, right? The crystals being sort of a source of ether. And at least from what I've seen so far, it seems as if because the crystals are mined, right? The crystals are mined, and the small shards that they mine off of them are just used for, you know, everyday use as magic to, you know, fill water cups and light fires and whatnot. But obviously there's a finite amount of a crystal or a mother crystal. So once that's gone, it feels like maybe the land around it that was sort of dependent on the crystal being there is just slowly losing its ether and ultimately turns into Deadlands. But yeah, it wasn't really mentioned as a curse as such, or as if there is some sort of actual blight or like the pest or some, you know, illness or something that is spreading. It was more, it seemed at least as if it was more a thing of, okay, well, we just mined all the resources and so nothing's left anymore, and the ether has sort of left the place. Also then, the dominants play a role in that as well, and that is another thing that is very, very, well, in the dark still. Hasn't really been referenced or mentioned at all how all of that gets jumbled up together, because the dominants are also able to use magic, just like the bearers, yet they're treated very, very differently, even though technically I want to say it wouldn't even be that easy to discern, like for normal people, between a dominant and just a bearer, right? A normal person that can use magic. And I want to say that maybe that even hints a little bit as to what Clive can do. Almost as if normal bearers, right, are, maybe they're not so different from what Clive is in terms of being able to potentially even be able to like draw out magic from dominance or something. It's just that because of their status, maybe they're not really allowed to do that, right? Or rather, they die before something can ever happen with them. I don't know. So maybe it's also that Clive isn't even that special, more so that he just had the right circumstances for his ability to really flourish, whereas with the other bearers, they never get the opportunity to do anything like that because they're never in contact with dominance as such, or not, at least not to the extent that Clive was. No idea. The thing is, it can be everything and nothing at this point, right? There are so many possibilities where it could go, yet nothing seems to have been hinted at. Which is equally strange that they... I mean, same thing with the bearers dying, right? Maybe it was supposed to be a big reveal or surprise or something? Ah, so many things, so many, like, routes this could take. I don't know. Can I actually, if I hold this... Let's see. The Crystal's Curse. Maybe we can glean more information from that. I've kind of neglected the active time lore for now because I feel like it's more fun to go back to our home place and look at all the tomes sort of together instead of constantly opening up this menu. But in this particular case, maybe we do get more information about this. The Crystal's Curse. The price bearers and dominance pay for channeling ether through their bodies. See, okay, so this definitely also references dominance. So the weird cove and the blood Sid was spitting out after using his powers is kind of the same thing, okay. The gradual petrification of their flesh. It does not affect those who use a crystal to cast magics. Beginning with a stiffness and ache in the extremities as the curse progresses, limbs are rendered immobile and the pain unbearable. At last, the victim turns completely to stone and their body crumbles into dust. There is no known cure. Wow. Oh, hey, Podhog. Thanks for resubscribing. I really, really appreciate that. That's a cute bear emote. Where did you get that from? Huh. It's also... the words they're using are sometimes a little bit confusing, because I feel like they're sometimes using them in a way that I wouldn't have thought they would be used as in this world. The usual bear emoji, okay. Oh, your Prime expires, okay. Well, I double appreciate it then. Okay, so my problem with this is, or not, problem sounds so bad. It's not really a problem. It's just that I'm really, I want to understand how this world treats this, but it's definitely made fairly difficult by these descriptions, because yes, it is a curse, but I feel like it's a curse not in the sense of a magical curse, but rather they're cursed as in they have bad luck, right, in their life. They were born as somebody who can use magic, and because of that, they were mistreated and they were, you know, just used as tools. So I guess they're cursed in the sense that they had to live a very, very bad life, right? But then that last sentence of "there is no known cure" makes it seem like an actual illness. Which, is it really? I mean, it's not that they're ill or that they need to be cured. It's just that, I mean, I would look at it as if you had, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that sadly is still happening in the real world, right? The thing that immediately comes to mind was when they were building the stadiums for the last World Cup, right? And they didn't really have many like workers' rights and whatnot in the Middle East, right, where it took place, and so over 4,000 construction workers died simply because well, they didn't care enough to provide for safety measures and whatnot, right? So I was looking at it more that way. Like, these people are treated so badly and they're constantly forced to use their powers that obviously that would have a very, very bad effect on their own bodies, right? So but then describing it as if there is no known, well, obviously there's no known cure for somebody who's being mistreated all their life and just, forced to constantly extort their own body for the benefit of others. So it has this weird double meaning here where it's really unclear whether or not it's simply a bad fate that these sort of like a bad fate these people were dealt, or if it is actually meant to be an illness. And I don't even know at this point, and that's what's confusing me, whether or not the game wants us to think about it as an illness, or whether or not it just wants us to think about them being mistreated. Because at the end of the day, that heavily determines or heavily influences how we think about people, right? Because yes, of course, using them as slaves and using them as tools and whatnot is bad, no doubt about that. But doing that with the knowledge that because you're doing it, you're pretty much also sealing their fate, as in they're going to die very, very quickly because of what you are doing, would be very different if it is an actual curse and they would kind of die because of their illness regardless of whether or not they are used as tools, right? I mean, yes, it doesn't exactly make the whole slave situation any better, but it would be, way, way worse if it wasn't an illness and it was only because they were used as such. So, yeah, I don't know. It's not entirely clear what the game wants you to think about this. Martha. Landlady of the Golden Stables, the tavern at the heart of Martha's Rest. She's also friend of Sid's cause, keeping the hideaway supplied with both victuals and information on developments in Western Storm. A second string to her business that she strives to keep secret from the Imperial authorities. Okay. Also, I do have to say, considering that we did in fact see bearers being used as slaves in the opening of the game, really lowers my opinion of of Elvin, right? The father of Clive. Because at the beginning it was suggested that, it looked as if, yes, Rosaria was still utilizing the bearers as slaves, if you will, but they were still treating them right. It felt like that was supposed to be the differentiating factor here between Rosaria and sort of the Clive's father's rule as a king compared to the other nations that we've seen so far, is that the bearers were supposed to be treated better there. But okay, so obviously it's better to treat them well, but if they ultimately still succumb to death, like painful death because of how they're used, does it really make his father better than the other leaders? I mean, maybe slightly, but really not by much. So yeah, that kind of retroactively makes them all seem like way, way worse as people, right? Not Clive as much, I think, because, he was still sort of 15, which, well, that's pretty much an adult when it comes to sort of middle-age terms, right? So he also should have known better. At least for him, we can kind of assume that he wouldn't have had ways to change that destiny of the bearers, right? Whereas his father maybe would have been able to. I don't know. This is all quite strange. curse gets triggered by them using their magic so much. Yeah, I guess that would also make sense. They enslaved them to keep them under control. Well, I mean, that doesn't really change anything about it being bad, though, right? I mean, they enslaved them because they wanted to utilize their magic for it themselves. Not really for any other reason, right? I mean, I guess, yeah, looking at it as a curse that sort of suddenly appears because of what they've been through and then very, very quickly kills them, more or less. Yeah, I guess it makes more sense than to look at it as an actual illness, right? Yeah. There is the question of how many people actually knew that. Well, I mean, yeah, we really don't know enough about it yet to ultimately come to a conclusion there, right? It's just that if it really does take them over fairly quickly, and I mean, seeing as they literally were used as tools, you'd assume that it just happened all over the place constantly, right? Especially if you cannot really gauge when it happens, you'd assume that, you know, if in a larger city, for example, that you would just see bearers suddenly, you know, fall over and die right there on the street, right? Because it was the moment the curse took over. Or maybe if they didn't die immediately, certainly it would still have been a common sight. Almost like a, I mean, this is going to sound really bad, but just as a comparison, right? A hammer that gets used by a blacksmith or something. Surely you sometimes see tools just literally breaking, right? And it feels like that would be the same here with the bearers, that you just see a bunch of them. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be too common of occurrence, but certainly something that people would still know about, right? Because it just, I mean, you'd assume that even not so wealthy families, so just sort of the middle class or something, they would still probably have bearers in their home. And so ultimately, eventually, they would also succumb to this and die. So most people would probably just know about it and take it for granted as well, which is why I was speculating earlier, or why I thought it was surprising that we haven't really seen how they potentially dealt with that. Because, well, just assuming, you'd think that maybe there was some sort of, not a graveyard, but like a mass grave or something, where they just got rid of them to not have to think about that anymore, right? As soon as somebody falls over, oh yeah, our tool is used up, so, you know, just take him out to the trash, something like that. I mean, it sounds really horrible, but I'd imagine that's how it would go, seeing as they don't see them as human. But maybe it sort of was, maybe they somehow were capable of sort of pushing it under the rug and not let people know. But I don't know how that would be possible. Yeah, I love theorizing about that. Well, I do have to say that as fun as it is theorizing about this, I feel like the game leaves a lot up for guessing. Like a lot. A lot more than you typically get. Because it's one thing when you get a subject in a game or a book or whatever, right, that you're clearly not supposed to know about. And then you start speculating, okay, what kind of direction could this go, right? With the hints that I've been given, what might be the possible outcome here, right? And that's a lot of fun. But so far, Final Fantasy XVI, they're leaving so much open that it's even difficult to speculate about it at all, because it can literally go in any possible direction, because a lot of stuff is just simply not explained at all. It might be later, but it's still a very unusual way of storytelling, I think. Not necessarily a bad one, but certainly unusual. You'd assume that up until this point we would have gotten a lot more information about these particular problems and things that are going on. Especially, and that's the one thing why I'm struggling a little bit with it. They clearly want you to care about this problem, right? I mean, very obviously, they want us to sort of take the side of Sid, as in, okay, clearly these are slaves that need to be freed, and, you know, everybody should be treated as equal. They actually should be treated as human. I mean, that's a very obvious thing, but it actually kind of gets more difficult to care for them if you don't fully understand the problem, right? I mean, obviously, I'm for freeing them. Like that's a given, but if you don't really understand what the hell is even going on or what the actual problem is, then you also can't really think about how to solve it in that sense. So yeah, it feels like, at least in my case, my mind is thinking more about, okay, how does this even work? What does it mean? Rather than using my mind to sort of emotionally care for the problem at hand, right? Maybe that's just me, but it feels like it's more difficult to emphasize with the problem when it's not really getting explained all that much. Oh well, but I should probably continue and see if it gets explained. The imperial province of Rosaria, a nation occupying the western reaches of the continent of Storm, with Rosalith as its capital. When the duchy was left leaderless in the aftermath of the attack on Phoenix Gate in the year 860, the Ironbloods seized the opportunity to attack the capital. Their campaign did not last long, however, as the Holy Empire of Saint-Brec soon returned in full force to stake its own claim, leaving the once proud duchy no choice but to submit and become an imperial vassal state. Right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That would happen. Honestly, probably a better place to be in than constantly being raided by the Iron Men, because as bad as the Empire is, it feels like it's still way better than what the Iron Men were doing with their weird, you know, all the bears are abominations and I don't know. Especially seeing as they forced Jill to turn into the icon by threatening to kill a bunch of children. Yeah. I mean, then again, all of these nations seem almost equally bad. Just in different ways. Alright. I feel like the bridge is going to be repaired now. I wonder if we're going to talk about what we just witnessed. Hopefully we'll get a bit more information about that, actually.
Ah, you're back. Thanks for taking care of that.
The abbot had a message for you. 2 more have succumbed.
I see. Come upstairs. So, now you know, eh?
I've seen plenty of bearers die on the battlefield. But never like that.
And all because they were born different. The powers that be can't take away their gift, so they strip them of their humanity instead. Oh, there's plenty who pity a bearer's plight. But so long as we're content to sit around, weeping for those on whose broken backs we're carried, we ain't gonna change nothing.
And so you lend Sid your strength?
What little of it I have. Used profits from this place to buy the poor buggers.
So when the abbot told us the bearers were yours...
Aye, they're my property, at least by law. Any still fit to work fetch a price beyond my means. All I can do is care for those who are past mending. But it's not all doom and gloom. Bernard's finished fixing that bridge for you. You can carry on to Eastpool now. You got questions that need answering, ain't you? Well, I wish you luck.
Yeah, it feels like hundreds of questions by this point.
Oh, I almost forgot. Sid and I have other friends in Rosaria. Wear this and they'll know you for one of us.
Slumbering Chocobo. Oh, so it is actually called the Slumbering Chocobo. That's
here.
That's cute.
You were right, Sid. It really is them. Lord Rosfield and Lady Warwick have come back to us. And long may they stay.
Very interesting, right? Because, yeah, in theory, Clive would sort of be their king now, right? Or at least theoretically has the right to the throne, I guess. Although I'm pretty sure the Empire wouldn't like that.
Honest work building the aqueduct.
Back when we had proper leaders.
Oh, I hope you have a great walk. I don't know if I still continue here, because I need to go a bit shorter today, unfortunately. So I think I won't be continuing for too long anymore. Unfortunately. Oh, is anything going to happen out here? Why is the customer? Oh yeah, we get another cutscene, okay. What is he doing here all of a sudden?
Ah, Clive. You're not where I left you.
Hurt your hand.
I did, aye. With 1,000 little lightning bolts. Can't fling them around the way I used to.
Well, he's turning to stone as well, huh?
Think of it as my decoration for long service and exemplary misconduct.
Well, that seems to suggest that it takes quite a long time, though, doesn't it? There's so many weird little details that seem to not really match up, right? Wouldn't you see bearers running around with, like, parts of stone as well?
We didn't.
Thank you, Sid. For everything.
If you want to leave, that's your lookout. I'm sure you'll have a long and happy life together if you stay out of my way.
Sid!
Oh. I knew a girl, back in the day. She was a slave to her fate, just like you. I wanted to save her.
You talking about Benedicta?
For a while, I even thought I could. But just because you think something doesn't make it true.
Sid.
I'm no savior. Just a conceited old fool. I talk about people forging their own futures. But instead of handing them the hammer, I beat them with my own. And if no bugger wants to listen to what you've got to say, you might as well keep your gob shut. But Clive, I will say this. You're not a monster. You're the same man you've always been. Accept that, and you may yet escape your fate.
My fate?
Look, lad, you've had a hard life. And I don't see it getting much easier. You might not be able to save anyone else, But at the very least, you can save yourself.
I'll try.
And Jill, I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to talk, but I trust you'll take good care of the boy.
Yes, I will.
Why the sweet speech? Is he saying goodbye?
Aye.
Where-
We'd head back then. Wouldn't want to keep Nan waiting.
They're just going back to the hideaway. What were you doing here anyways?
So then.
Could have just could have just come with us, right? When we were going here? What? That was a weird encounter. And he got all broody all of a sudden, but still didn't really explain what the hell he was even going on about. Holding on, okay. That was rather strange. Oh, hey, do we get... Oh, yeah, we get more side quests here. Well, I do feel like this might be a good stopping point for now. The one thing that I wanted to say, though, still, coming back to the earlier discussion about what the hell this curse potentially even means. So, I mean, it very clearly has been confirmed now that the Dominants turn to stone as well when they utilize their powers too much. Now, that brings up a whole new array of questions, doesn't it? Because how exactly does something like the Blessing of the Phoenix work then? Or not the Blessing of the Phoenix as such, but when we think back, like, let's assume that the whole Ifrit bit and the betrayal of the Empire and Annabelle and whatnot didn't happen, right? Or rather, let's just think back about the history of Rosaria as such. Their whole deal is, right, that they have the line of the Phoenix Dominant in the bloodline of their leaders, right, of their kings and whatnot. And at least the way it was shown to us, it seems as if they, the Dominant of the Phoenix is kind of expected to bless their people, right? At least to a certain extent. I mean, we don't really know to what extent or what exactly that means. But seeing as Clive, for example, had the Blessing of the Phoenix, a certain amount of energy was definitely sort of given over from Joshua to him, right? And seeing as we already saw Joshua, even though he was quite young, have that cove, the same thing that Sid had. I don't know, it just seems very contradictory to me. So you want to have a very, very strong leader, right? To the point where, at least in Annabelle's words, only the ones that are actually blessed by the Phoenix are considered their true leaders or true kings, right? Whereas all the other ones, I mean, Elvin was saying that himself, Clive's father, right? That he was just kind of warming the throne until the next in the bloodline that actually had the proper blessing of the Phoenix would be taking over. But if the Dominants are suffering the same fate as the Bearers, then doesn't that seem weird? Wouldn't they want them to either not use their powers as much because then they would die too early and they would be left without a leader? I don't know, and I'm really struggling with getting behind the concept of treating the Bearers as tools, but on the other hand, the Dominants, who are kind of very similar, except that they have even stronger magic than the Bearers. They're considered to be leaders on a lot of nations and kind of expected to use their powers even though they know that it's eventually going to turn bad if they use them too much. I don't know. Alternatively, maybe if we do consider the Blight to be something that takes over the land, maybe there is a correlation there as well. Because that was something that I wanted to mention earlier too, is that in order, for example, to fully prime, for Dominants to fully prime, I think they're also they're not only using their own body's ether, but they may actually utilize ether that's sort of in the environment, but leaving the environment devoid of ether in the process, right? So it's not exactly a good thing either for them nor for the environment. So considering that the Blight is spreading and less and less ether exists within the world, maybe that also vastly accelerates that whole turning to stone curse with the bearers, because maybe they're not able to replenish their body's ether as well as they used to in the past, because the world in and of itself has less and less ether. Could be a thing. But once again, just with everything else, the game hasn't really mentioned anything in either direction up until now. So it's just a lot of speculation that you can try and do, but not much of it actually amounts to anything, I think. Well, that being said, I think this is a good stopping point. I don't want to go into the next big section of the game, right? Considering that I can't really continue playing that much today. Also, I'm insanely hungry and I don't want to take a lunch break and then continue for another 20 minutes or so. So this is where I'm going to leave it. Next time, we're definitely going to do some side quests here and potentially go back to the hideaway for a short look at some new additional lore and or doing one of those. I kind of plan to, you know, sometimes in between do those arcade levels and try my luck with those again. That being said, I'm also very intrigued where the story goes. And so I think, yeah, probably at the start of next stream, I'll do the 2 or whatever side quests that are available here, and then we're going to continue with the story and just see where it goes from there. I mean, I'm still very, very intrigued. I think I might have come across as complaining a lot today, which I was, arguably, about the game. I do very much think that there's a lot of weird stuff going on with different sort of elements, both in the lore, but also in the game's design, sort of clashing with each other. Where I'm having trouble to understand why they went with certain design decisions the way they did. That being said, I'm still very intrigued by it, and I'm liking a lot about the game. I think the combat is really, really good, even though I'm still struggling with a bunch of sort of combos and timings and whatnot. But the combat is really fun, it's really good. It's definitely a cool action game in that regard. And the main story is still insanely intriguing to me, and I definitely want to see where it goes. Also, I really do like the characters. I like Sid a lot. I think Clive so far is still sort of he's a bit too broody for my taste. I wish he would take a more active role in conversations. I think, you know, giving Clive a bit more of a personality, or at least, you know, have him actually evolve as a character would have been more interesting to see. But then again, I also still think that I'm very much still in, you know, kind of the first arc of this game, so maybe that's still to come. That being said, characters like Jill, for example, but also Martha, like different NPCs that you meet, are very, very fun and cool to talk to, so I like that a lot, I think. And then we have places like this that also do very much look pretty beautiful, I have to admit. So yeah, still plenty to come, plenty to see, plenty to play through, and I'm all here. That being said, I might not stream tomorrow, at least not Final Fantasy. Obviously this evening and tomorrow evening there's still going to be raiding and 14 going on, but I think I might have to take a break tomorrow, unfortunately, and then we'll return to Final Fantasy on Wednesday. On Thursday I was thinking of maybe going back to Tears of the Kingdom, simply because I don't want to like leave it stranded for too long. Obviously I still want to know where that game goes as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for now, for today. So, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for resubscribing to Podhawk. Thanks for being here. Thanks for chatting. It's been fun as always. And maybe I'll see you on the next one. So all that leaves me with is to wish you a great rest of your day, morning, or evening, wherever you are. And maybe I do see you on the next one. Until then, bye-bye.